It is 9:04, so let's get going. Anybody else that pops in as we're going along can certainly catch up. So Matt has put the workbook in the chat if you can get it. If you are having trouble getting it and you just pop your email in there, Matt will send it to your email. Those of you joining right now, you only see the chat from when you join, so you won't see it posted previously. So maybe at about 9:10 or something, we'll post it one more time. So I'm Rhonda Messenborg. I am team leader at Keller Williams Coastal in Rhode Island, and we have Matt with us as well. And Matt's an MCTT. And Matt, what market center are you with?
I'm out of Southwood Tupper.
Oh, awesome! With Jameson.
With Jameson. Everybody knows Jameson.
So we are your hosts for today. We are going to be talking about sellers today, seller consultations, how to work with sellers today. So this is a really exciting Ignite session today, because this is as realtors, this is what we all want, is we all want listings, right? So we look for leads, listings, leverage. If you have the listings, right, you control the market. And right now, if you have a listing, you have a guaranteed sale versus working with buyers. Right now, it's very, very difficult to get things closed with buyers right now due to the lack of inventory on, in the market. As a little aside, did anybody see 60 Minutes on Sunday? Anybody? 60 Minutes, Henry, you saw it. Yep. on the housing market.
Yes.
Right. And what did they say? Why are we in this situation that we're in right now, where we have less than a month's supply of inventory on the market currently? Do you remember?
Kind of. Well, obviously it's inventory problem. And and I think there's talks about how investors are buying up stuff too.
Yep. So it was, so there was it was like this twofold story that they were doing. Yes. And Trisha just posted that she loves 60 Minutes. If you Google it, if you just Google 60 Minutes from whatever Sunday's date was, the story will pop up. And I think it might be on CBS.com. You can just get the transcript of the interview. If you didn't want to watch it, you just can kind of scroll through. But here's the interesting thing that they said is why inventory is so low right now is because in the last housing crisis that we had back in 2007, 2008, in that housing crisis, new home construction came to a grinding halt, and it never recovered. We actually never got going again. So at this point, on top of that, all of the, you know how they name all of our generations. Well, the millennial generation now is of the age where they're starting to buy houses. So they have also entered the housing market to start buying homes. And they are the largest generation ever. And that generation, they were saying, is a generation that wants to, they want home ownership. They don't want to live in apartments. They don't want to live with their parents. They don't want to live with a roommate. They want home ownership. So due to the fact that we have this influx of the millennial generation now in the housing market, and the fact that we never caught up with new home construction from the last housing crisis we had, and let's just throw COVID in there as well, we are about $4 million homes short of where we actually should be. And that's nationwide, that's across the whole nation. But that is what is impacting also this low inventory market. So it's like so interesting, right? Because we're just like, yeah, there's just low inventory. And we found out that it predates to like 2007, 2008 was kind of what was ramping us up for where we are today. It's super, super interesting, right? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Anybody else find that interesting? I just find it super interesting, right? It's kind of, now, and that's a great talking point for, you to talk with sellers and talk with, buyers out there, and talk with people that are saying like, hey, Stephen, how's the market? How are you finding the market? We're like in one of the lowest inventory markets we've ever seen. And you know what? And here's why. And now you're a little bit of that expert, right? So all this information, I was super excited to see that 60 Minutes did that story on Sunday.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
If my voice lets me. So if anyone has watched The Big Short, it's the movie about the early 2000, 2008, and 2007, 2009, that housing market crisis. And then what's going on now, I honestly believe that all of this should be illegal. I don't think corporations should be able to buy homes that are private. I think they are creating this market, and I don't know. Somehow I believe it just should be illegal. And everything that they did in The Big Short definitely was illegal and caused the crisis. And it also created the reason why Obama had to bail out the banks. It's corrupt. And, I really honestly believe somehow, and I'm not really sure the legal basis of why it should be, but I just have the feeling that it's just immoral at a minimum, that they shouldn't be buying houses. A corporation should not be buying houses. To me, it smacks of I'm sorry, I can't find the word, but it's not capitalism. Why can't I think of the word? It smacks of communism, and that's too strong a word, but I just don't think it should happen. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting, that's interesting, Joelle, absolutely. And that was the whole other half of that story, was about these corporations that are buying up these single family homes to then turn them into rental homes. And that also is just going into that, the fact with these, with these homes, that you have a corporation that's competing with buyers to get into that market.
I have a quick question.
Sure. Hey,
That's
Ian.
okay. Hey,
of course.
How you doing? Yeah, I know the inventory is real low, but I'm also kind of curious, compared to the past, what is the amount of new realtors there are today? Is there like a high level of new realtors and extremely low amount of new inventory? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
I figured.
Yes, people are entering into the career of real estate at an astounding pace at the moment. And I think that I heard a statistic, don't quote me, but I believe I had heard a statistic that there's double the amount of realtors now than there were just like a few years ago. So the real estate, and this is what happens in the last few years when, business is up. A lot of realtors you get into the business. And even now, even with inventory being right now, people are entering the real estate industry for their career at an astounding rate. So, that's why it's also important, as realtors, to make sure that we are always educating ourselves, and we are always in training, and we're always making sure that we are at the top of our game, because there's a lot of competition out there. And, when you're sitting at the table across from a seller who's thinking of listing their home, they're likely talking to at least 3 other realtors, if not more. And, everybody is talking to them about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And it's important to understand how you make yourself stand out and stand apart from every other realtor, that is out there. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right? It's about, what is your value proposition, and how do you portray that to somebody to say, that I am going to sell your home. I can do it, quicker. I can do it for more money. I can do it in less time. I can do it with less frustration for you. And right. And so how do you position yourself to be able to win those listings? And that's exactly what we're talking about today. And that's why it's important, because who you work with, we say that here at Keller Williams all the time, right? Who you work with matters. And same thing for those sellers, who you work with matters. And you want to make sure that, as working with a seller, that they understand, you're going to take care of them and their needs, and you are going to give them the best customer experience that you can give them to sell their home, because it can be a very emotional and very frustrating process. And not every seller who's selling, it's for them to move into a bigger home, right? They may have to sell their home because, they're getting a divorce, or because they, have to move away for one reason or another, or they can no longer afford their home. So it's not always a happy occasion that the home is coming on the market. And so you have to be able to, to gauge that, and you need to be able to listen and be able to make sure that you're serving the clients at the highest level.
I have a
And
quick question.
It's an honor.
Sorry.
Sure, no, go ahead, Polly. Absolutely, please.
Thank you. With respect to the millennials saturating our market and buying all the inventory, other than social media, what are some suggestions of ideas to market to the millennials? Maybe, I don't know if anyone's having success with that, if they wanted to share, or if you had any experience with that, Rhonda.
I mean, social media for the most part, right? I mean, millennials are we're out they're on social media, though. Interestingly, I heard something interestingly yesterday. We were talking, what were we going to? We were just talking, our leadership team within our market center, about how we, how we can reach our agents. We're always looking for ways to make sure that we can reach our agents, and how agents like to be communicated with, right? So for all leadership, all the market centers that you belong to, you guys, as agents, you are our clients, right? And we're always looking for ways to make sure we can serve you and serve your needs, help your business grow. We're always looking for ways, how do we communicate on the level that you all want to be communicated with? And everybody likes to be communicated differently. Some like our text, some are email, some like a phone call, some are on social media. So you have to hit the platforms all the way across. Nowadays, a lot of younger, people, millennial, they're not on Facebook is kind of becoming more like the, the older generation, and they're on Instagram, right? Or they're on Snapchat. Who here is using Snapchat in their business? Anybody? No, right? I'm not using Snapchat in my business. It scares me. I play around on it every once in a while, but other than that, I'm just kind of I don't know. I don't even know what to do with this. But Snapchat, it's that's right. So you need to go where the next trend of social media is. Discord, has anybody heard of Discord? Yep. Discord is now up and coming, where, some people are on there, they have multiple channels and different interests and what have you. Discord is a great tool, to use. Our team. I also have a brokerage team. My team uses Discord to communicate with each other. It's absolutely amazing. But yet, how do you use it in a marketing format, right? And I'm sure there's a way. So it's also about always being on that cutting edge and learning what's the next upcoming trend and jumping on it. Because you just need, these days, if you put a house on the market, it's going to sell. If you have it priced right, it's going to sell within a matter of days. However, the market is, a shift is in order. And so when that comes, you want to make sure, because as you are all entering, if most of you here are newer agents, you're entering into the market where the state of the market is that you put the house on, you price it right, it's going to be under contract. In 3 days, you're going to have multiple offers, and it's likely going to go over asking price. When the market shifts and that's no longer the case, you need to make sure that you have the skills and that you now know what you need to do in order to market the properties, because the time's going to come where we're all going to have to work a little harder again at marketing our properties, because we're not going to be in this state. So that's a great point, Polly, as far as just understanding what's upcoming, where the trend is, and capturing how do you use that to your advantage to reach the buyer that may be interested in the home you're selling. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Thank you. I mean, I use TikTok a little bit.
Oh yeah, TikTok, yeah.
It's fun. I find it challenging to build up, the followers. You really have to be on it all the time with the algorithms and all that, but it's fun. At least it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, it is fun. I know I have somebody who handles my social media, and I do Instagram reels and try to get those sent out, and it is fun. It's just taking the time to do it. And then, like you said, making sure you have the right hashtags, but that's a great way right now, talk about a trend right now between TikTok and Reels. So it's about being in action, and it's about being consistent with it. Because, you know, the first time you start doing something, it is not all of a sudden, right? You're going to do your first TikTok video. You're not going to get 1 million followers, or you're not going to get, you know, whatever you just, if by but consistently doing it, you're going to gain followers. And it's about becoming the influencer. It's about becoming an influencer in your craft, and in the marketplace. So then when enough eyes are seeing you and somebody's thinking of selling their home, they're going to say, oh, who's that person? I always see on TikTok giving me information, giving me value. Oh, it's Polly. You know what? I'm going to reach out to her. That's what it's about. It's about constantly being in action and being consistent about it.
And to your point with the reels, you know, just noticing on my Instagram how many views on just reels versus your just a regular post, it's unbelievable. I mean, it almost doubles. And if I'm sure everyone has this, but your Instagram definitely should be a professional account. This way you have that, you can see the insights and know, you know, what times people are looking at it, how many people are looking at, you know, you can just see all the demographics across the board. So that's really huge piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you are not using social media in your marketing, absolutely look into it. And if you need help with it, you can find somebody, you know, pretty inexpensively out there through Fiverr, just to at least get your profiles set up and running. And, you know, because it is something super, super important, to make sure that you are branding yourself and you are marketing yourself. And just like Polly said, so just go back to the word professional for a moment. Yes, that's a professional account, but always make sure that as you are embarking on that into social media and putting information out there that on that professional realm, that make sure that you are professional. Make sure you have a business account in Facebook if you're using Facebook, in Instagram, and make sure that, you know, you separate it to make sure that the image that you're portraying is one of professionalism. Trisha, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just a separate mindset too. You know how when you join Keller Williams, you have a sponsor and they get a percentage of your sales?
They get a percentage of the profit from the profit center, but yes,
right,
exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the woman that I chose as my sponsor is actually someone that I noticed on social media, and she was doing really awesome marketing, and I just happened to reach out to her, and she's the one that sold me. And now she's getting my profit share just because she had a good social media. So you could, also think of it that way, where like you're marketing to other people that might want to join Keller Williams and they might make you their sponsor someday.
I love that. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole different conversation. But yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. That's terrific, Trisha. All right. So let's jump into our day here. So for all of you, if you guys, I just saw a couple other people jump in. Matt, do you mind throwing the thing in there one last time, just to make sure everybody has the you know what I'm talking about, the package there. Okay, so let's jump in. My goodness, focus on my words today. So as usual today, we in Ignite, we're always focusing on ways to grow our business, ways to run our business. So for today, we are going to be focusing on making seller listing presentations and getting listings. That's what our whole conversation is about today. So, and Matt, do you want to start the PowerPoint, or do you want me to? I have it handy. I can do it as well.
Yeah, whatever's easier.
Okay, I think I can do it here. Let's see. Let me share. Okay, you guys see that? At the end of it, let me just get to the slideshow here. Let me get to the top. I was trying to go through this morning at 5 a.m. when I got up. Okay, so like I said, today we're going to focus on making seller listing presentations and getting listings. So let's talk a little bit about sellers, what they want, how they come to find their agent. So NAR, in their 2019 profile of home buyers and home sellers, this is what the survey came back as, that they asked sellers how they are finding their agent. So 39% of sellers said that their agents were referred to them or is a friend, a neighbor, or a relative, 39%. So the biggest chunk of the pie is they are using somebody that they either know or somebody that they know recommended. So what does that tell all of us? What's like the most important thing in our toolkit? And I know that you guys have talked about this at another session, but what's the most important thing then, if that is where most sellers are coming from?
Database.
Exactly, right? It's your database. It's staying in touch with and making sure that you are top of mind with either past clients, because they are now in your sphere, anybody else that already knows, loves, and trusts you, right? Your neighbors, your relatives. It's just making sure that you are staying in touch with them and that they know that, you know, you are actively in real estate and that you are ready to help anybody that needs your help in selling their home. 27% of sellers said that they used the agent that they worked with previously. And does anybody know what maybe the one reason, unless their agent did not serve them properly. Aside from that though, say they had a wonderful, wonderful experience with their previous agent. Do you know maybe the number one reason why they won't use that agent again, or why they don't use that agent again when they list their home?
You didn't follow up, no touch base. You don't keep in contact pretty much.
Exactly. They kind of forgot about you because you never stayed back in contact with them and reminded them, hey, I'm still here, or checked in on them. Right. And they might say, you know what, oh my God, who was? And I've talked to, to sellers out there that reached out to me one way or another. And they would just say I had a good agent. I can't remember I don't remember who it was. Right. And that's like really sad, because as agents, we should always be reaching back out and checking in with our clients after the sale. Even if it's somebody that you've been working with and maybe they decided that they weren't going to sell their home, make sure they're in your database. Make sure you're following up with them. At some point, they're going to come back around to you, and you want to make sure that you are top of mind. And within the command system,
tag them.
Yeah, exactly. Tag them. Make sure that you're using command, you're tagging them, and you have them on a 33 touch, like automated, right? Oh, this stuff, we have a lot of easy buttons for you to be able to do that.
Just do the home anniversary. I mean, that's the most basic one. We do that right away when we sell something.
Yeah.
Put it in the home anniversary, and then home anniversary, they get a mailer. So that's like exactly automatic.
It's automatic. Yeah, exactly. Make it as easy as possible, but stay in touch, because your database is going to, right? You learned about that in the database class, that your database is for every, does anybody remember what the statistic is for every 7 people or for every 10 people in your database? Does anybody remember what that statistic is? All right, we're going to find it and we're going to put it in the chat. Matt, do you know what it is off the top of your head?
In terms of how many people will do a transaction?
Yeah.
6%.
It's 6%.
So they say 6% of people will do a real estate related transaction every year.
Okay. I was
So
going to say
6% of your database will do a transaction. In reality, it's probably closer to like 10, because there's also referrals in that database.
Exactly.
So your database is worth about 10%.
So for every 100 people that you have in your contacts, there's six of them are going to transact this year. And so by simply staying in touch with them, that's increasing, right, your opportunity to be able to serve them. Okay, and so then along also out of that survey, so what sellers want? What do they want from their real estate agent? So 21%, you have they're all pretty close, right? 21% say they want help marketing their home. They want you to sell the home in a specific time frame, right? They want to know your thoughts on pricing. They want to know, this is a huge question that always comes. They will want you to come do a walkthrough and let them know what changes, what changes should they make to the house to make it more valuable. Move this out of the way. They want help finding a buyer. And then 11% says other, which is a very big reason for other. Maybe they want you to walk their dog or something. I'm not sure what falls into other. I'm sure it's a lot of different things. But those are basically, that's basically what sellers are looking for out of their realtor, right? So let's talk about the process. So the process to listing somebody's property. So the first step is going to be doing the pre-listing questionnaire. So during the time when you are talking with somebody, when somebody is inquiring with you, whether they're a lead, whether they're a referral out of your database, whether they're somebody that you transacted with previously, or maybe it's your relative or a friend or what have you, the most important thing about is going to be what happens before you actually are going to schedule that appointment. So what can anybody tell me what tools can you use during this process to list the house? Anything that you've either learned here in Ignite? What's one tool that you can use?
A listing survey, like a questionnaire.
Exactly. Yep. I was gonna say it's right here on the screen for the first one, right? That pre-listing questionnaire or pre-listing survey, that is a really strong tool. And I want to say maybe in your toolkit, there is likely one in your toolkit from Ignite. During this part of the process, you want to be asking a lot of questions, right? You want to be asking more than you're speaking. You want to learn all about the seller and why they're selling, right? What is motivating them to sell, where they're going, right? What are their expectations, right? How quickly they want to get the process done. And so you're just going to ask a lot of questions, and that hence the name, right? It's a questionnaire. It's just asking questions. There's one thing in the real estate business, regardless of whether you're working with a buyer, whether you're working with a seller, is just always just asking lots and lots of questions. And sometimes as realtors, we're trying so hard to let them know what we know, because we want to make sure that we stack up, and we want to make sure that, you know, we can kind of be face to face with any other competition from other agents. But yet coming from that attitude of care and asking questions, that is what is really going to bond, like to form that bond between you, because it's all about the relationship. So take the time, really get to understand your seller, get to know your seller, and then really get to understand where they're coming from and why in the first place are they selling, and where are they going, especially in this market. Where are you going, right? Because they might need to sell, but the where they are going is actually a really important question these days. So the second step is then going to be to schedule the listing appointment, right? Sometimes we skip the pre-listing questionnaire. We just get so excited that somebody wants to possibly list their house. We're just going to go right in for the appointment, right? Take the time to get to know them on the phone first, and then say, great, listen, I would love to set up a time to come and talk with you about your home. So schedule it, get it on the calendar. All right. Then the third step is send a pre-listing packet. And I believe there is a template in your toolkit. And I believe, Matt, am I right? You can even do this through Command as well. Does Command have a pre-listing packet?
Yes, there's whole listing presentations in Command. There's everything you need.
And we're going to jump in there in a little bit too, so you guys can see where you find that. So, and that's great. Command makes it, that's your easy button too, right? You just can go in there and you can just, you can upload your headshot, you put your information in there. So it's all done for you. You just have to change it and change some of the information in there to make sure that it's personalized to you. But the bulk of it is done. You don't have to start with a blank, empty canvas and be like, okay, where do I start? What do I say? It's already done for you. You just can tweak it to make sure that it's personalized to you. All right, but send that pre-listing packet ahead of time, because if they have it ahead of time and they're reading through the information, right, they're all then, and there's going to be constant communication coming back. You can talk with them again and say, I hope you got my pre-listing packet. What questions can I answer for you? what questions did that bring to mind? So by the time you actually get to the listing appointment, you've already talked about their questions. You've already handled a lot of the objections that they have. And during that time, you're creating and you're blooming that relationship that you're starting with them. So then you're going to create the listing presentation, which also there's templates right in command for you for the day that you're actually going to go to the appointment. And then the last step is going to be, you're going to go to the home, you're going to do a walkthrough, and then you're going to present the, any other additional, at this time, most of it should be done and they should be ready to go. That last step really is for you to see the house, answer any last minute objections, and to get them to sign the listing paperwork. And by following this system, right, if you're only calling them on the phone, setting the listing appointment, and then going to the house, right, doing the last step, the home walkthrough, if those are the only 3 steps that you're doing, then that's what happens when they're like, okay, well, we're going to think about it. I'm going to talk to my, we're going to talk about it and we're going to get back to you. By following this step, right, by following this process, you've talked with them, you've answered all of their questions. You've sent them the pre-listing, you're asking more questions, answering more objections. By the time you get to that listing appointment, they're going to be ready to sign that day with you. There might be just a question as you're going through the walkthrough. That's where the question will come up and say, do you think I should remodel this bathroom or should I just like let it be, right? That's where you're going to get those sorts of questions. Typically, when I get those questions, I will typically say, if it's a kitchen remodel or a bathroom remodel, listen, if you were going to stay in the house for a couple of years and enjoy the house, I would say remodel the bathroom and enjoy it. However, if you're just doing it just so that you can sell it, like we can clean it up, right? If it's like in bad repair, maybe switch out a vanity. That's pretty easy. Sometimes just changing lighting makes a big difference, right? Or don't try to figure out what somebody else's taste is. Just make sure that it's clean and that there's no real big red flags, leaks, those kinds of things. And let's reflect it in the price. Let the next buyer come in and choose to make those modifications. But it all depends. Any questions on the process? Has I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. So who on here has gone on a listing presentation and has either followed that process or had a different process? I would love to hear how things went, anything that we can, talk about. Give me a little feedback. And again, I'm going to ask if anybody, if you can put your camera on, that would be awesome. Just so there's a lot of names I'm just talking to. Okay, who's gone on? Anybody? Go ahead.
I put a bunch of PDFs in the chat too for each section. So if you guys want to grab those.
Oh, fabulous.
The pre-listing presentation, the walkthrough survey. So, and these are all in the toolkit, but in case you guys don't know where that is.
Great.
So yeah, I've been on a listing presentation. We just had a listing, sold the place, and yeah. So yeah, we haven't done the questionnaire as much, like the front end stuff, but we got the presentation and then in-home console. But a lot of listing presentations are past clients, like either we bought them the house or we worked with them in the past.
Yep.
So that kind of helps. It's not like going in stranger, new.
Yeah.
So I think, if we do like brand new, like we never met them, I think all the questionnaires and all that stuff would be very helpful. Because these existing clients, we know them, we work with them, so we bought them the place, so we kind of know the property already.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier.
Exactly.
So a lot of stuff you don't have to ask because you kind of know already. And so yeah. But we definitely need to work the front end stuff more.
Absolutely.
But our goal, this year is to get more listings, focus on listings.
Yes, exactly. Leads, listings, and leverage.
Yes.
Anybody else? That's great, Henry. Thank you. Anybody else want to share?
I went on one yesterday, so this is just one day late. I did it a little out of order, but this was someone, so I've had a few listings, but this was more of a cold listing. I didn't know this person at all. She was not a referral, but she had come to an open house, and that's how it turned into a listing appointment. So I had an in-depth conversation with her at our open house at one point where it allowed me to, because there weren't a lot of people walking through. And then we talked briefly on the phone, but I didn't give her the formal questionnaire. I have one, I just didn't give it to her. And then I did a walkthrough yesterday because she was kind of anxious about my coming out to see the property. And so I did it. So it was all sorts of out of order. And yet, because we had multiple touch points, because we spoke at multiple occasions, it didn't feel, I felt like I got a lot of information out of her. She is, however, very hesitant because she is a widow. She has been in this house since 1986.
Okay.
1986. So it's going to be a tough move.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And that's what we had talked about, right? Sometimes it's a bittersweet, right? There's somebody that's been in their home for a very long time. They've raised, or, in some cases they've even longer raised their children there. Right. Or, right. And, or they, maybe lost their partner or their spouse. And so it's hard. Right. And so it's not,
but it was interesting. She and her husband before he passed had maintained the house. And so they're for having been there as long as she has, it's in great shape. There's a couple updates that might be, so we talked about that, and I asked her time frame, and she said, well, I can't possibly get to that. I don't think I can imagine that I could get to that this year. And she was saying get to that, but there really wasn't get to that. What we were talking about was replacing a vanity, like you discussed, changing out a light fixture, having someone come out to, fix a crack. So it wasn't a lot on the list. It just, I think psychologically, she couldn't get to it, which means she's not ready to pick up and move out of the house. Right. I'm assuming that's what she meant by that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then I wanted to ask you, because frankly, I was going to follow up with her today, but I don't want to push her, but I don't really know what my next move should be.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it takes time, and, and sometimes you just have to give somebody that space to come to get to that mind place where they are ready. And the best thing that you can just do, Lisa, is stay in touch with her and not pressure her, but be there for her. So that way, when she is ready, and ask questions, right. And ask questions, along the lines of, what would it look like if we were able to sell this place? Right? She might need that to move forward. Right. So also, asking those types of questions of not pressuring her in a negative way, but pushing her in a positive way, that she might just need a little bit of that bump. Right. And just say, well, yeah, go ahead.
In her case, more than others, so many people are interested in getting into the market to cash in on it. And in her case, she's really worried. It's less the issue. She can live comfortably, right? She is really worried about her next step, because it is sort of like her whole life next step. And so where she would be is a big issue for her. So we talked about that too. So, she will likely become a buyer before she sells, frankly.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Sue, I see your hand raised. Sue? All right, we'll come back to you when you're ready. Just unmute, Sue, when you're ready. Yeah, absolutely, Lisa. And that is the holdup with right now. That's probably the biggest objection to a seller listing their home right now is they don't know where they're going, and there's not a lot of options, and rentals are completely, those are few and far to come by, and then they're so expensive, as well. And so that's the biggest question that we have to answer for our sellers is, what is their next step? Where are they going? You could always use a contingency called seller to find suitable housing for sellers, meaning that they could get under contract and they're not obligated to sell until they find something. You can use that. you know, but it's, you know, it's a conversation, and it really is, it is one reason that we have also kind of compounding into the inventories, because we can't get sellers who even want to sell to get their home on the market. William?
Yes, Rhonda. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe easing her mind, trying to help her find someplace that would be suitable, would make it a little easier for her. If you could reach out and just do some research for on what she may want.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's all encompassing in solving problems and solving the issues that are standing in the way of, you know, for her, and depending on her age, where is she going? Is she going into an apartment? Is she going into, you know, a 55 and older community? And again, that all just stems from like asking questions and how can I best help you? So then that way, when the time is right, we can get your property listed and take the stress of that, maybe that property, for somebody who is on the older side, who just doesn't want to maintain the property anymore, to get you out from under there and get you into your next step. It's not just about, you know, where's my next transaction, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, there's agents that, you know, I mean, everybody has their own thing. But if you're coming from care and you're really serving the relationship and you're really genuinely caring for your clients, they're always going to come back to you, and they're always going to remember that relationship that you have with them.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sue just put in the chat, and no need to apologize, Sue. Totally understand the whole technology issue stuff. A very powerful way to approach the people moving with a sad situation is the new chapter, and to keep that in focus throughout. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And to keep reminding them what is it going to feel like when the weight of this property is no longer on your shoulders, right? And sometimes like they get so overwhelmed that they can't motivate because it's just too overwhelming to think about it. And you could be that light in the room for them to say, right, what is it going to feel like when you don't have to worry about shoveling the driveway or mowing the lawn, or the furnace breaks down, or right? So let's work towards getting you to your new chapter, and let your home serve the next family, right? That it's meant to serve.
Right.
Love that, Sue.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on here. I'm like talking about technology. I got like multiple devices working. That's fine. We'll get to that. Okay. So let's talk about, I know that earlier in Spark, you all talked about identifying A, B, and C sellers. Who can tell me what an A seller is?
Very motivated, ready to go.
Ready, willing, and able. Absolutely. So all sellers, they're not a seller unless they're ready, willing, and able to sell something. So for an A seller though, what's the one thing, if they're all ready, willing, and able, what's the one thing that might differentiate A, B, and C?
Or maybe higher than normal. So if you had to have
able.
Not able to, how about, right, maybe like, how about time, right? The time of when they're ready to go. That's what's going to differentiate between A, B, and C, right? You might have somebody who is like, listen, I'm definitely selling my home, right? The next question is, oh, that's wonderful. I can absolutely help you with that. Let's talk about time frame. What are you thinking as far as time? You want to sell in the next 30 days? You want to sell in the next 60 days, 90 days? What is your time frame? So an A seller would be somebody who is like ready to go within the next couple of weeks. Like they are literally ready to get their property listed, right? I'm selling my property. I want my home on the market in the next couple of weeks. It's a matter of paperwork, photos, all of those, right? Those are your A sellers. Those are your most motivated sellers. Or you want to give them your highest priority. A B seller is somebody who is going to be ready to list their home within the next 15 to 60 days, right? So maybe they're like, you know what, it's going to be on the market in the next month, right? To the next 2 months. I have some things to do. I want to do some landscaping. I'm going to paint the house first, right? I'm going to do some things. Our team is working with a seller right now who has tenants in there until April 1st. Then they're going to power wash the house. They're going to fix the bathroom ceiling. Then we're going to list it. So they're a B seller for us, right? They're not ready to go right now. But that house will be coming out in the next 15 to 60 days. And then a C seller is somebody who's more than 2 months out for your C seller, right? That's like somebody who you might talk with at the end of the year who says, I'm going to list next spring. I'm thinking next spring, I'm going to list, or right now, you know what? I have children and I want them to finish the school year. So we're going to list in July. We're going to get through the school year and then we're going to list, right? Those are a C seller, right? Sometimes we think of like A, B, and C that, well, the C people are just not really that motivated. Maybe they're going to sell, maybe they're not. You want to think of it in this format. They're all ready, willing, and able. They just have a different time frame, and categorize them in there as such. And again, like Matt had said earlier, tag them, right? Tag them in command, right? You can use any like nomenclature that you want, but tag them. So that way you can go into command in the morning. You can pull out all your B sellers today and just have a touch point with them. Hey, just checking in. I know we're getting ready to list in the next couple of months. Just checking in to see what I can do for you. Did you get this done? I know that you were going to paint the bathroom. How is that going? Do you need a contractor? Who can I refer to you? And just staying in touch with them, right? Same thing with C, even more important because they're like maybe 2 to 6 months out, right? Still important, it's really important to stay in touch with them. So that way they don't end up having a conversation with somebody else along the way who says, you know, all of a sudden the next thing you know, they're like, oh, you know, hey, Lisa, you know what? I talked with so-and-so from so-and-so, you know what? I decided just to move forward. I'm listing the house tomorrow. Right. So it's important to stay in relationships, stay in contact, make sure that you have a plan for that. Always be providing value, right? Even if they're not going to list for the next, you know, that they're listing, you know, at the end of the school year, it's coming, right? So make sure that between now and then that you're staying in touch and you're adding value to them.
And I think a lot of that comes from you attending these sessions more. You working through.
Any questions on that?
Experiences that are a little bit uncomfortable in the end. So think about it, 6 weeks ago.
I go back to our presentation here. Let me just find it.
And you were like paralyzed in the beginning. You didn't want to make the calls.
Let's see, there it is.
By the end of that, okay. You could see in your mind how far you came within a 20-month period.
Okay, so pre-listing goals. Let's now talk about before we actually get to the appointment. So our pre-listing goals. We have three critical goals in the pre-listing. Number one is to state your value, right? Tell the seller what you bring to the table. What makes you different than every other agent out there?
Of those 6 appointments, 4 of them are with sellers, correct?
Number two, pre-selling and building confidence, and build confidence and answer questions, right? More listening, less talking. Right? Finding out really what your seller is looking for. That's one thing that will totally differentiate you from a lot of other realtors out there. Is just by asking questions, knowing where they come from. And then one of the really cool things that come out of the pre-listing is like by doing all of this and by asking questions and sending a pre-listing packet, you're going to be able to answer those objections up front. So by the time you get to the listing actual appointment, you're going to have addressed pretty much every one of their objections, and they're going to be ready to sign the paperwork. So our market center last fall, how many of you and how many of you have heard the name Brady Sandal before, as far as in Keller Williams? Does anybody know Brady? Has anybody heard the name Brady? So Brady Sandal is the director of growth for Keller Williams Luxury. So he runs the whole Keller Williams Luxury division for us. He's absolutely amazing and one of my favorite people in the entire world. And he actually came to our market center last fall and did a luxury presentation for our agents, and we did a mastermind with our community agents. I just saw him last week at masterminds in Mohegan Sun. Did anybody go to Mohegan Sun last week for masterminds? Yeah, that was good, Matt, right?
Yeah. His presentation was amazing.
He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. Like, he's my all-time favorite person. All right, now my husband's probably my all-time favorite person. I have that now on recording, so you've all heard it. I said it. But I absolutely adore Brady Sandal. So anyways, Brady was in our market center. last September, and he was talking about his listing presentation. Now, Brady will say, right, that luxury is, it is an experience. It's not a price point. So it doesn't matter, right? Your clients still deserve the same experience from you, regardless of if he just happens to be the division of luxury and sells them, like his average price point is 1.5 million. Yet his team, I think, also sells homes in mainstream market centers around Santa Barbara. So it's just a different, there's a different price point out there anyways, right? But yet his whole thing is, it is an experience. It's not a price point. And so what he does, he has the most, I love his listing approach. So he does this approach that we're talking about. Yes, him and his team, he has a team. They ask lots of questions. They have their questionnaire. They ask lots of questions. They send a pre-listing packet. And again, answer questions, answer objections. They prepare their listing presentation. When he goes to the house for the listing appointment, he says, I am there on average 14 minutes. That's it. 14 minutes. That's all he is there at the house, right? Some of us are doing listing presentations, for 2 hours, right? He said, by the time I get to the actual appointment, I have already talked with them. I've learned everything about them. I've answered all of their questions. I've answered all of their objections. Honestly, I am there to tour the house and just take a quick look, and I'm there to sign paperwork. And he's like, I can be in and out of there in 14 minutes. And at that point, if somebody would say to you, well, talking about pictures, and Brady will answer that objection with, great. If I can take care of that, if we can do this for pictures, great, Mr. Seller. If I can take care of that, are you ready to sign the paperwork? Well, I just have like one more question, about this. Answer that objection, great. If we can do this, are you ready to sign the paperwork? And just always answering objections and getting them to the end where there's no, okay, great, what else? Right? What else is standing in your way from signing the paperwork with me today? Right? Well, I think I want to interview another couple of agents. Okay, great. Let's talk about that. Right? What that, that we're going to do together. What else do you feel that you need? Well, I want to make sure that I can get the property. I can get it sold as quickly as possible so that I can move on. Great. So if I can come up with our plan, if we can devise our plan right now on how we're going to find the buyer, we're going to price it correctly, we're going to find the buyer, and we're going to move forward in as least amount of time as possible. If I can demonstrate that we can do that, are you ready to sign the paperwork so that way we can move forward and get your home on the market? So it's a really, it's just it's a great way. By the time you're there, you've already answered everything. You've already talked about your commission. You've already talked about where you're going to market the property, how you're going to find the buyer, who's going to be at the open house, how you're going to run the open house. And they're going to be ready. They're all going to be attached to you and ready to go.
So instead of us being at an average week is speaking to 20 people.
And I'm going to tell you guys a fun little script. Not fun. It's actually a very I'm not going to say fun. It's an impactful script that Brady shared with all of us as far as when it comes time to price the home and how you're going to word that to a seller. And it's absolute gold. And I actually used the script last September after he had told it to me. I had a house on the market it was actually overpriced. My seller would not listen to me before I knew this little script. And my seller was a very type A, right? And I talked to him and I used the script on him when it came time to tell him that we needed to reduce the price. And honestly, there was nothing for him to say except, okay, Rhonda, okay, send me the price change form. Great. Right. So I'm going to tell you guys what that is. I'm going to keep you in a little suspense first, but I'm going to tell you what it is. So what do you guys think of that approach? Any questions? Any thoughts?
Oh, one thought. A lot of times people ask for a discount, rebate, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. and we just hold our line and said, no, we provide full service and blah, 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 all that stuff. So is that the approach? I mean, that's what we get a lot, these appointments.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be one of your biggest objections, right? One of the biggest objections is going to be your commission rate. And I have found, be the first to bring it up, right? Have it in your pre-listing packet, right? Make sure it's right there. It's right there. This is our professional fee. And this is what you're going to get for that professional, what that professional fee covers, right? You definitely want to have, if you're putting it in print like that, have the line under it that, you know, by law, real estate commissions are not set, and they are always negotiable by law, right? It is negotiable. Yet have that be the first one to bring it up. Let's talk about what it's going to cost you to sell your home, because there's costs involved with you selling your home. So let's talk about that. Right, get that out of the way instead of it being the elephant in the room and you don't want to mention it. Are they going to balk at mine? I'm just going to slide the paper. Maybe they're not going to say anything, right? But you be the one to bring it up. Yes, William.
I like that question. It comes up a lot, and they had it right in the script book. The piece that I pulled out was that if, you know, we discounted too much, the other realtor on the other end, the buyer's agent, he may not bring them by this house. He may take them to other houses with a higher. So we want as much traffic in here as possible.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so, and that's exactly what our team says as well to them. Like, listen, yes, I understand. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that'll say they'll do it for like a 1% listing fee. If you read the small print, then though, they are still going to pay another 2% to the buyer's agent. It's not 1%. That's just the listing side, right? With some of those companies, they are still going to pay an additional commission to the buyer's agent if there's a buyer's agent in the transaction. So also understanding and knowing that ahead of time. So when they say, well, you know, so-and-so is going to do it for 1%. Okay, that's for the listing side. Like, you just need to understand that they're still going to have to pay a buyer's agent, right? And so like that 1% now just became 3% or 3.5%, right? And then you just need to make up the difference from 3.5% to 6% if you're asking for a 6% commission, or 3.5% to 5% if you're asking for, you know, a 5% commission. But just as William said, a great objection to that is, you know, listen, Mr. Seller, I understand that you want to put as much money in your pocket at the end of the day. However, the listing side of the transaction typically pays the buyer's agent. And typically a buyer's agent is going to bring our buyer to this property. And so our company splits commission 50-50. So I'm going to take half of the commission. So the 6% commission that you're paying my team to sell your home, we're going to give 3% of that to the buyer's agent. Right now, I mean, yes, if we list for 4% and I give them 2%, not that agents are supposed to do this. However, some of them may look at that. They can come to our house for a 2% commission, or they can go to the house next door for a 3% commission. And which home do you think is going to get that agent more excited to show? Right. And I would really, really love to be able to offer 3% to a buyer's broker for this. And so that way, when they see this and they see that co-bro commission, they're going to get really excited, and they're going to really be motivated to find a buyer for our home. And the more eyes on our property, the more agents we are willing to bring buyers to the property, that is going to create energy, and that is going to create more activity. And that's going to increase our chances of getting an offer for the highest amount for your property. I always will start at 6%, though I will always say to an agent or say to a seller, I don't want commission to be the one reason that you're not going to work with me. So there are a couple of ways you can be creative. I usually say my commission is typically 6%. Yet I do understand that whatever the situation is, and so I'm willing to discount my commission a percentage point, and we'll do it for 5%. Instead of like just going in and saying, oh, it's 5%, and then they want you to do it for 4.5%, right? So if you start at 6, and then at least you have a place to go. You know what? Absolutely. Listen, if everything else in my listing presentation, I don't want that to be the one reason that you're not going to work with me. So I'm happy to discount it. Or you could say, if I'm the only broker in the transaction, if I don't have to pay a co-broke, I will do it for 5%. 6% if I'm splitting it with the broker's agent or buyer's agent, and and 5% if I'm the only one. I'll save you a point. So there's a lot of ways that you can structure it. Ian, did you have something to add?
No, never mind. You just answered it.
Okay. Yeah. So you can get, you can do something like that. You can say, okay, I'll do it for this, but yet if I'm the only agent, I'll do it for a little less to save you some money. Don't be so quick to be like, okay, I'll do it for 4, right? And I'll tell you a little story of why that doesn't work. I will tell you a story. This was in like 2013 or 2014. And I was not with Keller Williams at the time. I was with another company. And I want somebody in my neighborhood, and I live in a beach neighborhood here in Charlestown, Rhode Island. Somebody in my neighborhood told one of my friends that he was putting his house on the market. And my friend called me and said, hey, Rhonda, so-and-so is going to be listing his home. And so he said, I told him that, you need to talk with him. Now there are 2 agents in my neighborhood. I happen to live in the same neighborhood with 2 of the biggest agents in my community, like 2 of the top agents, and they're my neighbors. And so it has always been it's like very difficult to break into that neighborhood because they kind of have just been, been in the business a lot longer, et cetera, at that time. So he said he's going to be talking with so-and-so, so-and-so, and you. I called him, great. And he said to me on the phone, I talked to him on the phone, asked him a lot of questions. And he said, Rhonda, the most important thing is how much money goes in my pocket. The most important thing is how much commission I'm paying and what goes in my pocket. I was like, okay, right. I went in and I talked to my broker. And I really wanted this listing. I went and talked to my broker and I said, I know he's speaking with so-and-so and so-and-so and me. And do I have your permission to offer him a discounted rate of commission? And my broker was like, well, I don't, and I said, he told me that's the most important thing to him. That's the most important thing to him. And so if I go in there with a 4% commission, I think he's going to list with me. And I had just gotten back into sales and I'm like, I really want like my sign in my neighborhood. So we went in, did our listing presentation. And I told him that we would do it for 4%, knowing the other 2 agents would never do that. Do you think he listed with me? Who here thinks I got the listing? No, I didn't get the listing. I did not get the listing after all of that and him telling me that that was the most important thing to him. And I did not get the listing. And the only thing I did is I discounted myself and I discounted my value. Right. And I walked away from that and I said, I will never, ever, ever, ever do that again. Ever. Like, do not discount your value. Don't just go in and be like, okay, listen, just because you want it, listen, I'll do it, but I'll do it cheaper than anybody else. Just give it to me. Right. You go in there, you defend your value, right? All of these things like coming into Ignite every day, all of these things that you're learning makes you this is a valuable profession. You offer a service and you deserve to get paid for your service.
I wonder what the other agent's rebuttal was.
Well, what's so interesting, Ian, is that, he called me, he called me and he said, I actually liked you the best. Now, like I said, these 2 other agents have a very long, track record in my neighborhood. One of them, like was in his 60s and lived there since he was, 15. The other one, same thing. She grew up in the neighborhood. So it is a very stiff competition over there. Yet he had said to me, I kind of like you the best. But yet it was because of their long track record. But you would, right? But like the fact that I was going to save him, and it was like a $1.5 million property. So that's that 1% that comes out to a big chunk of money. And that still did not get him to list with me because, he actually really wanted the track record. And my point is that sometimes like the sellers will say one thing, don't get so fixated on, you want to listen to what they're telling you and their needs, but just be careful with that. Right? And don't discount your value. Go in there and say, my listing fee is 5. Listen, I will do it for 5%. And here's everything I'm going to do for you. This is my value proposition to you. This is everything I'm going to do. Well, I would like you to do it for 4. No, listen, I'm so sorry. I can't do that. I can't do that, but I'll tell you what, if I'm the only broker, right, for that caliber of house, if I don't have to pay a co-broke, I will do it for 4%. If I have to pay somebody, it's 5%. I can give them 2.5. Our side will keep 2.5. If I'm the only broker in the deal, I will do it for 4%. But I cannot bring my value down to 4%. And here's why. Here's everything that I'm going to do for you to get your home sold. And if you want to work with somebody of that value, if you want to work with somebody with that expertise, like everything else, right? Right. Cheaper is not always better. And by having that professional fee, I can now do all of these things. I can do all this marketing for you. There was a breakout session at Masterminds last week. It was on Tuesday. A couple of our agents from our market center went to it. And at our all partners meeting, right after they were kind of giving away some of their nuggets, I think it was at Master, it might've been a family reunion. Anyways, one of the things that they had said in this presentation was to offer, you could come up with like a tiered package of commission rates, right? So you could say for 5, 6, and 7, it doesn't have to be 4, 5, and 6. It can be 5, 6, 7, right? And at 5%, this is everything that I'm able to do. This is all the marketing I can do at a 5% commission. This is what I can do at a 6% commission. And this is what I could do for the top level. And this is what I could do for pick which, it's up to you. You pick your own commission. You pick the commission. Were you there? That was family reunion?
No, I heard someone giving this presentation just last night, a silver, gold, and platinum presentation. And he had his middle one, the gold one, is his usual price, and then you could either go up or down one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that was family reunion.
Yeah, I think you're right now. I think you're right. Yeah.
Because he was talking about his top tier is like, he'll get them a limo for the open house, or you take them for dinner or something. Like he was that high. I forgot who it was, but it was awesome. Like, for that price, I'll send you out in a limo for the open house day.
That's awesome, right? Yeah. I mean, hey, sometimes that 1 percentage point, you can afford to do that, right? Depending on the house. So yeah, you can get creative, with that. You can absolutely get creative with that. Any other questions on that? The other thing too, for some of these, another great objection handler for the commission is, so-and-so down the street said that they would do it for, they're going to do it for 4%. Another great objection handler to that is, listen, I understand that. I don't, unfortunately, I can't do it for 4%. But Mr. Seller, think of it this way. If that agent is willing to give away his commission so quickly, is that the agent that you want negotiating for you? If they can't negotiate for their own value and they can't negotiate for their own professional fee, is that the person that you want negotiating on the sale of your home to get you the most money?
Oh, that's gangster.
Right? It's great, right? It's good.
It's a good point.
It's a very good point. And you have to think about that, like internalize that too, right? For yourself. Because sometimes especially for newer agents, the commission conversation is a scary conversation, right? If anybody's read the book, Fierce Conversations, that's a great read. It's a great book. You can get it on Audible as well. But like I love that the term fierce conversations, because there's a lot of times in our career, even in our lives, where you have to stand up and have a fierce conversation with somebody, right? And so that objection handler is something that you should internalize yourself and think about yourself when you're going into that listing presentation, right? To say, when it comes to commission, if I'm willing to say, okay, I'm going to do it for 4 just because it's easier and I want the listing, right? Then how are you going to negotiate for that seller when you get into that tough negotiation spot and you're kind of going head to head, right? Right now it's highest and best offers. You have 20 offers and you're going to choose one. But I'm telling you, the market is going to come back to a time where you're going to have to really have good negotiation skills and be a collaborative negotiator with the other side, whether it's a buyer or a listing agent or a buyer's agent. And you're going to have that conversation. And you're going to want to get your point across, work for whoever you're working for, seller, buyer, be collaborative about it and not back away, and make sure that you're doing right by the person you're representing, right? So you want to think about that. Start now, negotiate for yourself and your commission.
So the other thing to keep in mind is even when you do that.
All right, good. All right, let's see where we're going to get back to our thing here. I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys a break at some point too. I can just talk about this stuff all day because I love talking about this. Okay. Okay, so maybe this is a good place just to take a break. So Matt put in the chat the links to the pre-listing packet through there, also the questionnaire. How about if we just take like a 10-minute break? Why don't you guys look through that that document, and then let's come back and let's chat about it a little bit. And then at some point, Matt, do you want to jump into like I cannot speak today. Do you want to share your screen and jump into Command and show everybody where the listing presentation lives?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. All right, so it's 10:14. Why don't we come back just before 10:30? And then I want definitely take a look at that document and then come back with some feedback on what you think. Okay. Okay, see you guys in about 10 minutes. All righty. 10 minutes flew by. All right. Let me, I know somebody said that I'm sorry, somebody said that they couldn't see those. Matt, do you mind popping them back in one more time in case that was somebody that joined us a little bit late?
I can put them all in again.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so who had a chance to take a look at the pre-listing presentation? I'm actually gonna, let me share my screen here. I feel like I have 300 things open on my screen. All right, let's see here. Let me find it. I'm gonna try not to squint as I'm looking where, there it is. All righty. Okay, you guys, do you see a guide to selling your home on my screen? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so this is the pre-listing presentation that is available. And like I said, the beautiful thing about this is you don't have to recreate it. It's all here for you. And, you know, feel free, you can tweak it a little if it, you know, if something, you know, sometimes, right, you know, the way we speak and maybe the way something is written, it might not be kind of like typically how we talk. So, you know, feel free to reword things a little bit. So that way the sentiment is there, but it sounds more like, you know, it sounds more like you, because you really want to be able to internalize this and you want to be able to, you know, to present it in a way that's authentic to you. So always be authentic to yourself. So let's just like talk about this page, right? Getting ready to list. What will it sell for? That's going to be the biggest question, right? Agent or sellers are going to want to know, what are you going to sell my house for? And what is your commission? Those are the two things that they want to know. It's all about the, you know, what they're going to get out of their house. So 5 factors that affect the value, right? The price based on recent sales. And I promised you guys, I'm going to give you a script, and I'm going to give you the script in a moment. The condition, or I'm sorry, it's number 2, the location, right? The location of the property, the condition of the property, the competition. So when you're out there and you're looking around to see what homes have sold in the area, also look to see what's active on the area, so you know what your competition is as well. Are you the only house in the neighborhood that's going on the market right now? So they have very little competition, or are there 3 other homes like one street over that are also on the market? Right, so you have a little bit more competition. And then the timing. Right, so maybe in your area, right, there usually everybody says, you know, in the summer, right, homes sell more in the summer. We have the months where homes sell more, depending on where you know, here in New England, right? Sometimes a lot of people take their homes off the market in the winter here because they don't want to worry about shoveling and all of that kind of stuff. One thing to remember, and you'll get sellers who will say to you, when's the best time to sell my house? And you can look at it multiple ways. You might say, well, I don't want to sell it around the holidays because it doesn't seem like a lot of homes sell. A great objection handler to that is, you know, yes, I totally understand that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. However, during that time frame, you don't have a lot of competition on the market because a lot of sellers remove their homes from the market around the holidays or in the winter. So that's also going to give us a leg up because we're going to be, you know, there's going to be less competition for us on the market. It's a great time. Another objection handler that I will use is homes sell all year round. People have to move for work. People have to move for personal reasons. Homes buy and sell all year round. It really doesn't matter. We may have to do something a little different with marketing, but we're going to take care of that. Now's a great time to sell. All right, so let's talk about price. So this is a great graphic that is in your pre-listing packet, right? So this just illustrates that this is the percentage of buyers that are looking at the property. And as you can see, if you start to price it above what the market value is, that the percentage of buyers looking at it is going to decrease. Now, this is like a really, I'm going to come off screen share for a moment. This is like a really interesting, really interesting market in that most homes are selling over asking price at astronomical rates, like well over asking price. However, if the seller prices it over asking price of where it should be to begin with, in many cases, they're not going to get one single showing. They're not going to get an offer. And if they simply price it to market, it's going to create an activity, a frenzy of activity, and they're going to get that stretch number. So we had a listing, and this is like a true story. We had a listing it was in Warwick, and it came on the market, and the seller, so it was a couple of years ago, and the seller, wanted to, they just wanted to price it higher than what it should be. At the end of the day, the listing price, the seller dictates the listing price, right? I have two stories for you. So the seller dictates it. Now, if the seller says, listen, if I'm not putting it on the market below this, it is then your prerogative as a listing agent to decide whether or not you want to take the overpriced listing, right? In some cases, you may say, you know what, that's just not going to sell at that price. And so let me refer you to another agent that I can feel can serve you better. Or you may actually, who wants to give up a listing these days, right? So the better answer to that question is, listen, I completely understand, Mr. Seller. I do not want you to leave a dollar on the table. So if you are absolutely adamant that we need to list this property for X, I am willing to do that. And I would like us to have an agreement in place that if in the first week or first 2 weeks, whatever you pick, if we don't have an offer on the table by that time, that you will agree to talk with me about lowering the price and bringing it back into market value. So that way you put it on, you're gonna know very quickly if you have it priced right. And these days you're gonna know very quickly, because if it's priced right, it's gonna be under contract. If it's sitting on the market, it is not priced right. That's just it, plain and simple. So you can have that conversation with them. So in the instance of this one listing, she insisted on us pricing it high. We priced it high, then I couldn't get her to lower it. Anyways, she was a seller to find suitable housing. Finally, I said to her, listen, like, this property is not priced correctly. And again, I used my script that I'm going to tell you about from Brady. And she finally listened to me. And she said, and I said, can we just bring it down to here? And she was like, this is what I want. I get it. I understand. She had a wedding coming up. I get it. I know you want to make as much. I'm like, just trust me. We need to bring it down to market value. We don't have enough buyers looking at the property. We brought it down to where it should have been listed. And she ended up getting over where we had it listed at the high price. So we ended up with multiple offers, and she ended up getting well over and above. Right? And so when we were priced at the higher price, we couldn't get an offer at all. We brought it down, and then I'm like, this is just how this crazy market is working. Buyers know when something is overpriced and they're not going to come. Yet if it's priced right, they all of a sudden see the urgency and they're willing to pay over that price. It's just the way the market is going right now. However, we had the reason why I say if somebody's adamant, you might want to take the listing and listen, because I had another seller who I gave her that this is what it should sell for on the high side. And she was going to be listing it within a month, right? She was a C seller within a month. She was a B seller. So by the time we actually put it on the property, it was literally like every week she would call me and say, yep, I'm ready to go. But you know what? I really kind of thought about it, and I want to list it for this. And we just kept going higher and higher and higher. And by the time of I was just like that is, I really do feel that that's just too high. I just don't feel we're gonna get any activity on that. Nope, she's like, that's what I want. And I said, okay, we had our talk. I said, okay, we're gonna know very quickly. If we don't get any offers on it in the first week, we're going to do an open house on Saturday. If we have low in, like nobody comes or what have you, if we don't have any offers from that, I really want us to talk about a price reduction. Okay, sure. Absolutely. I'll do that. Okay, great. Had an open house. We literally only had 2 people at the open house, unheard of in these days, right? Unheard of. The showing agent called me. She's like, I only had 2 people. Neither of them really seemed like super interested. I really couldn't tell. I'm like, I said, no, I'm going to call her. I called her up and said, okay, listen, this is what I think we need to bring it back down. While I was on the phone with her, the showing agent texted me and just said, we just got an offer 60,000 over our inflated asking price. We just got an offer 60,000 over that. Right. So I was like, okay, well, right. Like, so in this market, sometimes it's very hard to price things right now. Right. So sometimes, right, your sellers are going to kind of say crazy things. You're going to have to like ebb and flow with them. Right. However, our advice is to always list it for what the data tells us is the probable market value. That's all we can do. And then let the sellers guide you from there. If they say, you know what, I really want to go 75,000 over what that is. Again, you make the decision if you want to take that listing on. If you are going to take it on, have a plan in place that you're going to reduce it if that is not the right thing. But this market has been so crazy that sometimes that works. But yet never, ever be the one that says, you know what, I think we should go another 50,000 over because, right? Because the way the stats indicate is that if it's priced to market, you're going to get either at asking or above. So here's my script. You guys ready for the script? Do I have everybody's attention? So here's the script. This is straight from Brady. So when you are pricing a property and you are looking at the comparable sales and you are formulating where like-kind homes have sold and for what price, instead of saying, Mr. Seller, I'm looking at the data, I think that we should list your house at this. Right. And a lot of times a seller will say to you, Stephen, what do you think my house? I want to know what you think my house is worth. Does it matter? I mean, truly, does it matter, Stephen, what you think their house is worth? Who does it matter? Who it matters to who?
The buyer.
The buyer, right? It really, honestly, it doesn't matter what I think your home is worth. It matters what the buyers think your home is worth. So just change the language. Instead of saying, Sharon, I think your home is worth this. You say, in looking at the data, Mr. Seller, it appears that buyers are agreeable to purchase your home at a price of X. Right now, it's not on you, it's on the buyers. That is what the buyers appear to be. Okay, well, I want to list at 50,000 higher than that. I understand that, and I don't want you to leave $1 on the table. However, in looking at the data, it appears that this is what buyers are willing to pay for homes that are similar to yours. And so it is my professional advice for us to list the home in that value of what buyers are showing that they are agreeable to pay for like-kind homes. Then if again, and in the case of, and this came in the case of my seller who we were overpriced and was very like adamant about it. And when I called him back that day and said, listen, we need to have a conversation about the price because it was been on the market too long here, right? The house should be under contract. It's not priced correctly. And he said to me, I want to know what you think my home is worth. And I said, it doesn't matter what I think your home is worth. It matters what the buyers think your home is worth. And in looking at the data, Mr. Seller, it appears that buyers are agreeable to pay this for a home like yours. And if we want to sell your home, second part, and if we want to sell your home, we need to price it at the price that buyers are willing to pay for it. And really, there's nothing left to say to that except, okay. Okay. It's super impactful. It's super powerful. And it takes it off of, it becomes an opinion, right? Which we've all heard, broker's opinion of value. It's an opinion, right? And also on top of it, you can go further and say, listen, and it also depends on what that pool of buyers looks like right now. Right now, there's a huge pool of buyers, right? But it all brings it back to, it takes the opinion out of it and it becomes we're looking at the data. My job is to analyze the data. My job is to sell your home. My job is not to list your home. I don't want to list your home. I want to sell your home for you. And in order for us to sell your home, my job is to analyze the data and guide you and advise you on what buyers are agreeable to pay for a home that is similar to yours. I talked with another agent one time. We were having coffee together and we were talking about this. And, he brings the comparable sales with him. And when a seller gives him some pushback and says, well, I want to list it for this. And he said he will just slide the papers over with the comparable sales and say, I understand that. I understand that. Tell me in all these comps where that price is supported with all of these other homes that have sold. And where do you think that is right supported? So it's one thing for them to say it. And then if they're looking at homes that are just not priced that high, it just needs to start coming into their brain. And there's going to be listing agents out there, and do not be one of them, but there's going to be listing agents out there who will just say, who will inflate the price because they want the listing so bad. Listen, I can sell it for, right? And be very careful about guarantees, right? So these days in this market, sellers will say, I want multiple offers. I want multiple, okay, yes, I understand that. We all want multiple offers, and I understand that, right? I can't guarantee, I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot guarantee that I can get you multiple offers. I can't guarantee that I'm gonna get you more than your asking price, right? If we have it listed for, say, 500,000, we may get an offer at 500,000 because that's what we're asking. We may get an offer at 510. Yep, go ahead.
Additionally, it may not appraise.
And right, and exactly. And then there's the appraisal, right? 3 things have to happen. This was another agent that that told me this. It was actually our previous OP who is back and just doing production now. And I had a conversation with him when I joined Keller Williams. I was starting my team, and he and I just were having a conversation. And he was talking about his listing presentation. And he says that he has this conversation with every seller. There's 3 things. There's 3 things that have to come together. Right? I kind of started referring to it as the trilogy, right? There's a trilogy that have to happen in order for your home to sell, Mr. Seller. You have to agree to selling it for price X. A buyer has to agree to buy it for price X. And the lender has to agree to loan on it for price X. And those 3 things have to happen in order for the sale to close. And so it's just about education. It's just about being that, being that advisor to them, right? Don't just be in there like, listen, I'll list it for anything you want because I just want the listing. No, right? Go in there and be that expert for them, be that advisor, educate them, and put their home in the best light so that you're not listing it, you're actually going to sell it. Does that make sense? Any questions? Any questions on that? Anybody been in a situation where they've had to handle any of those objections from sellers?
Yes, I had saving. My client had to get so much money to buy the next house, but we weren't getting the interest, so we had to come down to sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, sometimes, and again, right. Again, that comes from just asking questions and asking what their motivation is. Right. And, and that may be a motivation. Like, listen, I want to sell my house and I want a bigger house and I want to be in this price range. So I need this from my house in order to be able to do that. And sometimes that's a tough spot because if the comps don't work out that way, that's a kind of a tough spot to be in. And to say okay, well, we need, that's where that really hard conversation comes in, especially if that does not seem attainable, is to set the expectation. I had a seller once who, this was a couple of years ago as well. And we had their home on the market the year previously before, like, I think originally we priced it was before COVID originally. And I had the house on the market for probably a good 6 months, and we didn't get any offers on it. I reduced it a couple of times. It seemed like it was priced very well. It was one of the little beach areas. We didn't, it was right on the main road though. We did not get any offers. And he ended up just taking it off the market for the summer, and he used it. And so a year and a half later, he called me and said, okay, I'm ready to sell it. And I said, okay, great. Like, this is where it needs to be priced, right? This is where buyers appear to be agreeable to pay for a home like yours. This is where it needs to be priced. He said, okay. And he's like, well, maybe I get multiple offers and I get over asking. Maybe, but let's see, let's get it. It's priced right. Let's get it on the market. I got a sight unseen offer on it for asking price 2 days before, or the day, like 2 days before the open house. Not sight unseen. I wasn't showing it until the open house. So you can, I'm in Rhode Island. You have to check with your rules. In Rhode Island, you can list a house and you have 48-hour window before you have to show it. You have to allow showings within 48 hours. So you can list it on a Thursday, schedule an open house on a Saturday, and say no showings until the open house on Saturday. Kind of build up a little excitement, a little bit of buzz. And so that's what we did. We listed it on Thursday. We were doing an open house on Saturday morning. On Thursday night, I got a sight unseen offer on it for asking price. And I presented it to the seller. And their stipulation was that they wanted us to accept the offer within 24 hours. That was the stipulation, or they were going to just pull the offer. And the listing agent said, listen, they have been in 4 multiple offer situations. They're not dealing with it. They're giving your seller what it's listed for, their asking price, and they want it signed, and they want the open house. You can do it for backup offers, but they want to be under contract. And I had to have a conversation with the seller, and the seller said, well, I was really kind of hoping for multiple offers. And I'm like, listen, I get it. I don't have a crystal ball though. I don't know what's going to happen at the open house. I could get 10 offers. I could get no offers. I could get 3 offers under asking. I could get 2 offers over asking. I just don't know. And all I know is that we have an offer in front of us for full asking price, and you have to make a decision, right? Manage expectations. Like, you have to be like, either you had like, it's not my decision. And you have to be very careful about telling people what you think they should do. Right? Knowing what we know, that anything can happen at the open house. If you're okay with that and you want to take that chance, then I can just let them know, and maybe they're really not going to walk away, but right, we can see. However, all I can tell you, I can only tell you at face value what I am being told by the listing agent, that if we do not accept their offer within 24 hours, that they are going to pull it and they are going to walk away. That's all I can tell you. So you have to make that decision, right? And in the end, they did take the offer in the end, and we did the open house just for backup offers. In the end, they did end up taking that offer. So you may not always get, I mean, this was a couple of years ago, but you may not always get multiple offers, right? And sometimes sellers will say, oh, I know, but I don't want to take that offer because I really want a better offer than that. So you also have to be careful of that. You have to just be careful of your language as well, and say, listen, if we price it here, we're going to get multiple offers. We're going to sell over asking. And then if you end up with 3 offers that are all right at asking, right? And now your seller's disappointed because they had their hopes set on they were going to get something higher. So again, you're here to provide information. You're here to provide data, and you're here to just guide them through the process in the best possible way. Wayne, I saw you come off mute. Did you want to add?
Yes. Yeah, I've signed up to help a couple of people do open houses on the weekend, and they received offers, and then they totally canceled the open houses. I'm just wondering why they still wouldn't do that to get more clients in the future.
So yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, absolutely. As we all know, open houses are a great way to get buyer clients if they come in and they don't have anybody represented. Absolutely. It all depends. Sometimes, a seller just might say, I don't want more people in my house. Right. So maybe it's not coming totally from the agent. It might be from the seller directly. If you're you know, it's easier to cancel an open house if it depends on what the offer is and what the contingencies are. So if you have an offer that waived inspections, it's cash, there's really no contingencies except a title search on it, right? You can move it to a straight pending and just say, listen, we're pretty good here. If you have to go through inspections, if there's a mortgage and so you need appraisal, it's always a good idea to take some backup offers on a property and just, you know, hold one more open house so we can get backup offers. So it all depends on the situation. But yeah, that could have, you know, sometimes like a seller, just like they're reluctant to have a bunch of people in their, you know, in their house. But it's a great idea. Go ahead. What?
I've also seen a lot of places sold sight unseen too.
Yeah, that especially like from COVID on, yes, and even in this marketplace here, we have had a lot. Oh, great, William, have a great day. You know, there has been a lot of sight unseen offers. There's a lot of, you know, competition, a lot of, you know, sometimes, you know, military, like up in like the Middletown area of Rhode Island. We serve a lot of military families, and I actually helped one of our agents out with their open house last weekend. And another agent from our office is working with 3 military families right now to find a house. And I think they're all going to be like sight unseen, or at least a couple of them are sight unseen, because they're not coming, you know, when they come here in June or whatever, they want to have a place to live. And so she was, you know, walking around the open house on FaceTime with them to, you know, give them, you know, a look at the house. And, you know, sometimes you have to be that, you know, the eyes for your buyers. But it's a scary thing, because sometimes, you know, a property online doesn't translate to in person. And, you know, that definitely is a little bit of a risk. And for a seller, if you have 2 offers that are completely, you know, the same, or maybe even just like maybe a couple $1,000s difference, and one is they came through the house and one was a sight unseen, you know, the one that they actually saw the house is going to carry a little more weight, because you don't want somebody coming in during the inspection period or something and deciding that they're going to get out just simply because they don't like the house as much as they thought they were going to. So it can be a little slippery slope.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions right now? We're going to jump back into, let's just go back through here and kind of carry on about pricing. Okay, we're going this way. Okay, so condition, again, this is where you can talk about staging. This is where you may talk about a few things to take care of. For instance, the house in Stonington, I, you know, advised them just to power wash the house because there was some of that green mildew on it, to get it ready. Making sure that the inside is decluttered as possible. If nothing else, and they're not going to make any changes to the house, at least, you know, get as much packed up as you can, declutter it, make sure that it's neat and orderly. Here's some great, I love this page, right? More questions, right? Besides the questionnaire, more questions. Your answers to these questions will guide me in how to best serve you. We'll discuss them when we meet. You can also call them on the phone and talk about it before. That way, if there's any objections, you're going to handle them before you get to the listing presentation. Knowing what prior real estate experience they have. This is something you could have asked them in the phone during the initial conversation. So you may and then again, feel free, you can change these if these are not the questions that this might be in your questionnaire from before. How would you like to be communicated with is a great question. Do you prefer email? Do you like text messages, right? There's nothing worse than texting somebody and they don't ever respond to you, and it's because they don't really do text and you didn't know, like you're just a texting machine. I am a texting machine, right? So if you don't know that your seller doesn't like to text, or you don't know that your seller has a flip phone that they really still can't text on, right? So ask them, how would you like to be communicated with? You know what? I really do prefer a phone call. Great. I'm going to call you every Tuesday at 1 p.m. and we're going to have, 15-minute conversation on how activity is going, or if you're under contract, how the contract's going. So ask, right? How frequently would you like to be updated? Weekly, twice a month after each showing. One thing that our team does is, I work in a team setting, yet for you, even if you're a single agent, if your seller is if your seller is okay with text, listen, is it okay if I text you? Great. When you're leaving the house after the showing, or you're leaving the house after the open house, you know, quick text. Hey, just wrapping up here. We had 10 parties that came through. 2 of them seem super interested. I'm following up with all of the agents tomorrow. Just want to let you know, I turned all the lights off. Doors are locked. I'll let you know if we get, as soon as we get an offer, I'll keep you posted, let you know. Or if it's a single showing, hey, just letting you know I'm leaving the showing. We're all wrapped up. This was the feedback. Or sometimes, you know, they were very hard to read. They had their agent. They really didn't say anything in front of me. I couldn't really tell if they liked it, didn't like it yet. However, I will follow up with the agent and get some feedback. Right? Or don't be afraid to say that they didn't like it. You know, it didn't seem like it was the right fit for them. Over communicate, don't under communicate. Nobody's going to get mad at you for over communicating. So this page, a little bit about me, right? This is where you kind of talk about your value proposition. And then here's just, you can put some testimonials in here. You know, if you have some testimonials, always ask for a testimonial. Another thing that I'm going to share with you guys to set yourselves apart a little bit. And now this isn't something that, you know, you would have in your listing presentation, because the first word of it is, and Matt, you'll recognize this from Brady's talk, is the surprise and delight campaign that Brady does for his, he primarily talks about it in way of listings. You could also do it for a buyer as well. The first word of it being surprise. So that means that you don't want to tell them that you're going to be doing it. However, he does a surprise and delight campaign where instead of giving somebody a closing gift at the end of the transaction, and as Brady says, he's a lot wittier than I am. Yet, like he says, you know, as your sellers are packing up their entire house, you know, and they are, you know, everything that didn't fit in the moving truck, and now their car is packed to the hill, and here you show up with a closing gift for one more thing for them to find room for and pack. And, you know, here you come and you show up with it, right? And he's like, their stress level is through the roof. So instead of giving a closing gift, what he does is he takes the amount that he would spend on a closing gift, and he divides it up between like 6 and 8 occasions during the length of the listing. And he calls it surprise and delight. So they get a little gift when he meets them for the first time. When they do photographs, he gives them another, like I think his photographs gift is, it's a little candle, right? So when the sellers come home after the photographs there, and he says when you do it, like you have to, you know, put it in a box. There has to be a lot of tissue paper, like, right? Because everybody likes to unwrap, like you want the whole experience, right? And it's a little candle that has his logo on it on the outside. And there's a little note on it that says, by the time this candle, we're excited to work with you and to find your buyer before this candle burns out. And then what he does after, he says, now, you know, you leave a gift like that, they're going to call you and they're going to thank you for the gift. And so he said, that is an opportunity. We're talking about like testimonials, right? Referrals, et cetera. When they call and say, hey, Maureen, you know, it's Rhonda. I came home and I found this beautiful candle. Thank you so much. I love it. And Brady says, oh, it is all our pleasure, Maureen. I hope you enjoy it. Do you know, who else do you know that might like to receive a candle from us? And so he does this like 6 to 8 times during the course of the transaction. And he says there's 6 opportunities to get a phone call for somebody to thank you for the gift and for you to ask them, that's great. Who else do you know might like to receive X? He says that his team they get 5 referrals a day on average because they're always asking for referrals. And they're not waiting and he was pretty funny when he said, the first 50% of the transaction, they really love you, really love you. By the second 50%, they're tired, they're stressed out, right? A couple of things have gone sideways, which of course we fixed. But by the end of the day, when they're packing their car up, at the end of the day, they are exhausted. And for the listing agent then show up and say, and now they have to go unpack wherever it is that they're going, for us to show up and say, you know, first of all, here's a gift. Here's one more thing for you to pack. Oh, by the way, do you have any referrals? Like, I love referrals. If you know anybody else that's buying, selling, or investing in real estate, I would love to talk with them. And can you write a testimonial for me? I'm going to send you that link to do the testimonial for you, right? He's like, you just like pile on to these people on the last day of the transaction. Whereas instead, throughout the course of the transaction, just be in the habit of asking who else in their world you can help, right? You're giving them such a high level experience. They're going to say, you know what? I just heard my neighbor selling their house. You should absolutely go and talk with them. Isn't that a cool program? Yeah, it's awesome. And there's lots of little things that you can do. If anybody is interested in it, we absolutely can. Brady shared it with all of us at Masterminds. He's happy to share. So if anybody's interested, I definitely can, I can pop it out in the chat if you're interested in receiving what he does for his Surprise and Delight campaign. Okay, so what did you guys think of the pre-listing presentation? Thumbs up, thumbs down, you like it, you're going to use it? Great, Lisa. I will absolutely pop that in before we end today. Awesome.
I have it right now.
Great. Okay. Let's see where we are in my. So Matt, do you want to take maybe 5 minutes and share your screen and jump onto Command and just show everybody where the listing presentation lives?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And I'll go find that campaign and get that posted in there.
Oh, I just shared it.
Oh, you did? Oh, you're so good.
Yes, that was the first thing I grabbed.
Matt is on it. Yes. It's great.
I agree. I think that was like the highlight of the whole thing. All right, so let me share my screen.
Okay, great.
All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
So listing presentations and pre-listing presentations. You can find them both in Command Designs. So Designs is the little icon with the paintbrush. And always remember, if you can't remember what your icons are, click the little red KW. So I'm going to head over to my designs. This is going to show you all the designs I've currently made. So you can see I use designs quite a bit. Yours might be blank if you've never used designs before. I'm going to click Create a Design. Our listing presentations are printable. So we're going to go under Print. And it's going to show me all of our available templates. And under Listings, you will find these listing presentations. And there are currently several to choose from. They are all roughly the same. The only difference really is the cover photos that are available. So you can kind of pick whatever one you prefer. I personally like the cover of this one. So this is the one I usually use. And now this will give us a 29-page listing presentation, which is a lot. Some of these pages are not needed. So what you do is you basically come into Designs and you pull out the pages you don't want. And you can add pages if you want to add them. And what I'll do is I'm kind of just going to briefly go over it. And then I will share 2 YouTube links, which will cover from Marty Miller that go into actually, creating one. But deleting pages is easy. You're able to just delete pages out that you don't want to use. And then all you need to do is edit each page as you go. So for this one, I would just change this to my seller's name. My logos, I can just swap in my logo. Swap in my picture. One tip I give everybody with designs, when you're editing text, everybody likes to edit on this screen where you kind of like edit the box. I find that to be a pain sometimes. So what I tell everybody is use this little typewriter button. This is probably will make your life 100 times easier. It pops the text out into a little side box.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it makes it much easier to see what you're actually doing. This is good, especially for big paragraphs where you want to do a lot of editing, because I find trying to click around on the screen, you tend to run into more issues. So that's it for that page. You know, I put my other information in, and I just flip through page by page, and I decide what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep. I'll swap my picture in there. You can get to the point where you can make a listing presentation in probably 15 minutes. The other thing I tell everybody is once you do your first one, you save that one. And then when you make your next one, you use that as your template. And then in reality, all you're changing is their names on the front page. Your pre-listing presentation, that's probably all you're changing. The listing presentation, you're probably putting some property details in, but you can get these down to where it takes you minutes. I don't know what everybody's offices have, but for ours, I bought a one of those little binding machines. If you want to get your own, you can get them on Amazon. I think I paid like $60, and it puts those black curly, you hole punch the paper and then you can put the black curly spine on it. It makes amazing, I mean, it looks like you had this professionally printed and bound. Each one costs like 13 cents when it was all said and done. So I dropped maybe $80 for the equipment. Each presentation I do costs us, I think it was 12 or 13 cents. It looks amazing when you walk into people's houses and you have this. When we talk quality and the experience, where everybody else is showing up with papers, you're showing up with something, you know, that looks like you had professionally done for them. And it kind of just shows how we go above and beyond. Even though I don't have your listing, I took the time, you know, to make you this.
Ashley, did you have a question?
Yes. I just had a question because is this like a CMA that's like on MLS?
No. So your CMA is giving them specifically the price of the house. This is more about how you're going to sell their house. So I'll kind of flip through the pages. So this kind of shows where you put the information in for the neighborhood. What are the prices doing? What's the average price per foot? You're going to put in some comparable properties. So this is kind of similar. I usually pull these from my CMA and I pop them in. Then it's going to talk about, you know, your needs come first. This is the stuff I love. This looks very professional. I personally, if you're a newer agent, and I'm a newer agent, I've only been doing this a couple of years. This is like my PowerPoint. I love sitting down with somebody and it helps me stay on track as I go. You know, I know some of you consider a listing appointment and not get lost. I need prompts. So it goes over the process. So, and this is what I love because I don't forget to tell them anything. So especially if you're on the newer side, these are amazing. It talks about our app. So I leave this page in. Again, it just shows like not a lot of the smaller brokerages have their own app. So it's just another value proposition.
So where does this come in, I guess, in comparison to the CMA? Is this like something that comes out before you kind of, you know, tell them how much their property is worth? Or, you know, is this kind of like when do you show them this in the process, I guess?
Typically for us, we bring both.
Right. So you can incorporate some of your listings in there, like Matt showed you, Ashley. You can incorporate some of those listings that you found in MLS and put them in here. So maybe there were some that you really wanted to highlight. And then you can have your CMA also as backup to show the rest of the properties that went into and go through those properties as well. You might maybe bring just the printed pages and have this as your PowerPoint and bring the paper copies of those listings. So then, like Matt said, you're going to reference them through the listing presentation when you start talking about price. And sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I think we have another question.
Joelle? Do you have a question, Joelle?
How do you upload photos into the program?
So super easy. When you come over to your images, so you have all your different sections. One of them is images. All you have to do is click add at the top, and it will let you upload your photos. You can also access them right from your Facebook page. So if you have like something on your business page, you can pull it right into Command. So it's very, very simple. So like once you have most of your photos uploaded, you're just swapping them over. What I like is you'll see like this goes into like all the different printing that we do. Talks about how I'm going to promote their house. Talks about my open house strategy. So I mean, if you look at this and this isn't what you do, you can simply delete the page out. You know, you don't have to use every single page, and I usually don't, but I use most of them because this is just, again, prompting me to talk about certain things, because I hate leaving a listing or any kind of appointment and being like, oh, I should have said that. Oh, I forgot to mention this. So everything you want to talk to them about should be in this listing presentation, and you're guaranteed to leave there knowing, you know, you gave it 100%. Not every appointment's going to, you know, work out, but you know, you hit every single point. So it has a couple of these pages that talk specifically about you. So you kind of put in your own credentials, your own information. The proof is in my numbers. You have a couple of options with this page. If you're an established agent, you're going to want to use your numbers. For my newer agents, I always tell them either use the office numbers. So you can kind of change this, you know, instead of the proof is in my numbers, I can put the proof is in our numbers. And I will have them push the fact that they work for KW and how great we are in our area. Your other option, if you're not comfortable doing that, delete the page. I'm a big fan of delete the pages you don't really want to talk about. Same thing, credentials and awards. I haven't been around long enough to have a lot of those. I just delete this page. Kind of talks about KW. So there's just a lot of like, it's a good mix of information and kind of fluff experience. So same thing, portfolio. If you haven't sold a lot, you can just delete these pages, or you could use your office numbers. Don't be afraid, you know, to use your office. That's what we preach to our people. There's a reason we all joined KW, and that's to use, you know, the value of KW. So I'm not going to go through every page, but it just continues on with, you know, a lot of just the fluff material. But that looks really nice. And it talks about safety. This is important. A lot of people have concerns about COVID. And again, you could swap out any of these pictures if you wanted to. You can really customize this however you would like. So I will post 2 YouTube videos that actually get in depth on how to edit them. I didn't want to turn this into a designs training because that usually takes a lot of time on its own. But watch the videos. Don't ever be afraid of coming into designs. It's a lot easier than it looks. And I feel like a lot of agents are not taking, they're not getting the value from Command if you're not using designs, because it takes seconds to come in and swap information out. You know, I can pull this up and I just quickly put my info. And once you have this done once, say that again.
I'd say if anybody has any questions, just make sure you raise your hand.
Joelle, you have a question again? Keep losing her. But you guys can see how quick it is to edit this. And I use the same one over and over again, because if you noticed, really the only thing that was specific to them is the opening sheet and then the comparable properties. So the opening sheet takes me 2 minutes. The comparables, I already have these because I've already done that CMA, because that's always the first step that I do. So then I print out my listing presentation, I print out my CMA, I bind both of them, like I said, with that plastic cover and everything, and you look like a rock star walking in. And I think that helps a lot with confidence. I don't know, for me it does. I feel better when I walk in and I have all this fancy paperwork, you know, it makes me feel good. So if nobody has any questions, that's all I got. And then I will share those YouTube videos for you.
Thanks, Matt. You can also, in that binding, I love the idea of binding that together, Matt, you can also have a copy of the listing paperwork right in there as well, and put it in there. Bring 2 copies with you. So that way there's a copy in the back of the book for them. And then you have your copy that you can, you know, so you don't have to rip it out of the book. You can fill out your copy and take it with you.
Yep. I had a couple questions in chat I just saw. So let me kind of go through these. So the animation button, this is new. So they're still working some bugs out on it. You can add animations like you would in a PowerPoint, like stuff can fly in and bounce in. You can then save it. This wouldn't be good for a listing presentation, but it would be good for like maybe a Facebook post. You can make some, you know, like a GIF that it kind of animates. You can also share your designs. If you come up to share, you get this link. If you send someone this link, might not have made enough changes for my link to work. Typically, this link works. So I'm not sure why the link's not working today. Typically, that link will work, and it will actually bring up this design in like e-form, where they can actually click through your pages. So I like that.
Cool.
For,
love that.
So, I wonder if I was sharing you guys the wrong link. Let's try this one. I was sharing the wrong link. So when you come to share, you want to share the project, not the design. So if you come in to share the project, here's that link. You can send them this electronic copy.
Oh, that's great.
They can actually flip through. So this is good as like a follow-up email if you want to include the link. This is also a great way to share the quarterly magazine that comes out. All right, I think that was it. If nobody has any other questions.
Great job. How's that for an easy button? Pretty good, right? Easy breezy. I love that. I love that share button, Matt. That's really cool. That's a great, and also too, and I don't know if everybody here is aware, however, even with the, is the pre-listing presentation in Command also, Matt? Did you say that and I missed it?
They basically use the same one. You just change kind of, again, you pick the pages you want specifically. Okay.
Because the other thing you can do is in Command, and this is a little trick that I love about Command designs, is that you can actually upload any PDF that you have, and then you can modify it. It allows you to click around the elements. I mean, typically you can't modify a PDF, yet Command Magic, it makes all of the text actually editable. It makes the individual photos where you can move, you can move them around. So you can actually take another thing, bring it in there, and then maybe you have that share button so that you can use that slider. I love that slider. It's very cool. It's a great way to not attach something. Great. All right, so the next thing that I just wanted to talk about, and then we're going to actually just talk about some some objection handlers, and just talk about different conversations and ways to say them. I'm not going to say the S word. I'm not going to say the word script, because usually that makes, nothing makes people leave Zoom more quickly than when you say we're going to do scripts. So we're not going to say that, and we're not going to do that. We're just going to then just move into and just talking about some talking points and different ways that you can say things and different ways that you can handle some objections, right? That sounds a lot less scary than the S word. So the last thing like that we should just talk about is like, so what do you do during the home walkthrough, right? So when we get to the point that you're in the listing presentation, one of the purposes of that is for you to walk around the house so that way you can familiarize yourself with the home. And so a couple of points on that. When you go into the house, it says that, you know, you should suggest leaving your things in the kitchen. And why is that? Why would you say, you know what, I'm just going to leave my bag. And if you have your computer, your iPad, or something, which by the way, if you do have an iPad, that is a absolute great way to be able to present your listing presentation on, you know, on an iPad. But why would you suggest leaving them on the kitchen table versus like in the living room? Does anybody know? Yep. And Lewis, great. Gives you a place to sit and sign. Yep, absolutely. But the living room would also give you that place. But why the kitchen? What does the kitchen symbolize in most homes?
Center of the home.
It's a center. It's like the heart of the home, right? So sitting on, and you'll sometimes refer to people talking about listing presentations of like, you know, sitting at the kitchen table with the sellers, right? It's kind of like that is the place where decisions get made. That is the place, the heart of the home. And it's the symbolism of you being in the heart of their home there, not as a guest, but as somebody who is sitting there in the trenches with them and talking them through this important milestone in their life. So as you're walking around the home, bring a notebook with you, right? Bring a note, it actually shows that you're interested. Bring a notebook, look around, right? And really kind of like hone in on some features of the home to get your mind thinking like, okay, great, here's some great tips. You know, I love the high ceilings in this great room. That's something we can really talk about in the listing to paint a story for potential buyers who might be interested, right? Pay attention to the way the room feels. Is there a lot of natural light in the room, right? I love the natural light in this room, right? This is great. Or, you know, I noticed a spot on the ceiling in the bedroom. What can you tell me about that? Right? Have you had any previous leaks in the roof? Right? Oh yeah, you know what? We actually just replaced the roof 2 years ago. There was a leak. I just haven't gotten around to you know, to fixing that. Great. You know, that might be a suggestion. You know what, maybe you have that it's all been taken care of, right? Again, you're not hiding anything, yet you might want to maybe have that touched up. Right? Fresh coat of paint does wonders. And explaining to them, listen, anything that somebody sees, this home that we're going to be listing in a few weeks, in the bathroom, there is and the home is being rented currently, but there's like a spot of like moldy mildew on the ceiling, right? So it's kind of like this little black spot on the ceiling right near the fan. And so the conversation that I, you know, have with the seller is, do you happen to know where that fan is vented to? Is it just vented to the attic? Because it looks like you have a little bit of mold on your ceiling there, and just want to know if it's a bigger issue, or if it's just like, you know, whatever, that you just need maybe a more heavy duty fan. You know, bathrooms, there's moist air in there. Right. And he said, no, you know, it is vented out, blah, blah, blah. I just, I was having an issue with, you know, with somebody wasn't turning the fan on, et cetera. And so I just need to touch that up. Great. Let's touch it up, because the seller sees, if a buyer sees it, they're also going to wonder what's up in the attic, and they're just going to start getting to worried. Anybody sees anything that looks remotely like mold on a wall, it sends red flags off. And then, you know, in their mind, the whole house is full of mold. Right. So it's just also not just walking around saying, oh my God, I love this. Oh, I love that. Right. Which we want our sellers to feel really good. Right. And we tend to be very complimentary, because we're nice people. But yet you're also, remember that you are the expert. And so it's also guiding them and pointing things out of potential questions from a buyer, or also questions you may have. Go down in the basement. Right. Some of us don't like basements, doesn't matter. Go down in the basement, ask them how old that furnace is. If you don't know, great. How old is your furnace? Have you had your furnace serviced recently? When was the last time you had your furnace serviced? Oh, you know what? We do it every year. Great. Because that's going to be, that's information that you can pass along when somebody comes in to look at the house, just to let you know, these sellers have taken amazing care of this home. They have that furnace serviced every single year. They have pest control come out every single year. This is just information that you can provide. You don't know that information if you don't ask. right? Helping the sellers, like for the sales disclosures, by law, the sellers have to fill that out and fill that out themselves. You cannot fill that out for them. Yet, if they have questions about it, you can guide them through it. They just have to fill it out, right? It doesn't ask all those questions, right? So it may say, well, how old is the furnace? And they might say, I don't know. They didn't know how old it was when we bought it. We haven't changed it. And they'll say, it works fine. It works. We have no problems with it. Great. When's the last time you had it serviced? Have you had it serviced recently? Because that's likely going to come up. That's going to be a question, right? So the disclosures are going to answer a lot of questions, yet, as you walk around, make sure that you're asking important questions as well about the condition, about any underlying issues. Etc. I know I don't know about Massachusetts. Is Massachusetts a survey state, meaning that a survey must be done before closing? Does anybody know? I want to say it's not.
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, Connecticut and Rhode Island are also not. Yeah, Sharon, it is? Oh, you're on mute.
I sold a house 3 years ago in Massachusetts, but the real estate agents are very thorough there.
Yeah, it's a little different process than Rhode Island.
Yeah, and they were telling me to look at the chimney, make sure it's lined properly and been pointed and cleaned. And the attic, 3/4 of attics in New England have mold. So you really need to have them. I had to have that checked. There was hardly any there, but I had to have it done so that, and when I bought this house in New Hampshire, it was a problem with the chimney. And I didn't realize it until 2 or 3 months later when it started to leak. Wow. So you got to pay attention to those things, because that's not the thing. You think it's going to be working fine, and it's not necessarily, Yeah. And you supposedly have 10 years to go back in New Hampshire to, legally get them to correct it, but not if they've moved out of state and they have no money. So that, and your homeowner's insurance may not cover all of these things when they move in. So.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Great. Thank you, Sharon. Linda, you have something?
Yes, I had a question. What happens if they don't know the age of, I don't know how old my roof is.
It's okay.
I don't know how my furnace is. It happens a lot when you read a disclosure and it says, doesn't know. It's like, okay, so what do I tell my client? That's important to know.
Yeah, so an inspector would be able to run the serial number on that furnace and be able to give them the manufacture date. Doesn't mean that's the install date, but would be able to just give them at least a manufacture date. It is okay if they don't know something, because they may not know, right? They may have bought the house and that nobody knows anything when they bought it. They may be, an older couple who honestly just doesn't remember, right? And you don't want, and you say then, listen, don't guess. If you don't know, it's okay. Just put unknown, and that is something that the buyers are going to have to discover on their own. Yet, if you say, and they say, I don't know how old my furnace is, that's okay. Have you had it serviced in the last couple of years? Right? That's maybe something. And typically, if it's a buyer's agent in the inspection, if they don't know the age of it and it hasn't been serviced, that might be a question to ask. When's the last time they had it serviced, or they haven't had it serviced in the last few years? As part of their requests, might be that we would like the service, the furnace serviced, to know that everything is up to snuff on it. So it's okay if they don't know something. They, it's going to ask questions about easements and encroachments, and they may not, and they may be like, I have no idea. We're not survey states, which means that we don't have to have a survey when it closes. And after time, property lines get blurry, right? Usually like, there's a stone wall. Like if you see a stone wall, you're like, that's probably the property line. You just don't know without, right? You can look at the property description and the deed. There is a description there with every single deed, but nobody's going to go out and measure, 100 feet to the west and all of that. So, they may not know if there's an easement. They may not know that their owner's fence is encroaching on their property. And so that's okay. It's okay to say that you don't know something. It's not okay to know something and say you don't know it though. And so that's just, again, education to say, this is information that we need to provide, that we need to disclose on your property. Everything that you know about the property, you should disclose it, because for the home, if there's a home inspection done, the inspector's going to find it. So make sure you disclose it. And by disclosing it, buyers are going to sign off on those disclosures when they make an offer. And so therefore, they're not going to then come ask for inspections because we already told them about it. It's something that they should have built into their offer.
Yeah, I just had a couple buyers, that's why, and we're looking at older homes, and some of them, they just didn't know how old the roof was. And I'm just, sometimes the buyer gets a little discouraged and says, you know what, I really don't know. If they don't know, I don't want to go into a house that the roof is going to need to get repaired within the next couple of years or 2 years. I just, let's go see something else. And sometimes me representing the buyer comes to mind when it's time for me to put out a listing. I'm like, oof, is that something that, you know, how can we even get information about something like that?
So
you know?
Something for the roof, there obviously should have been a permit pulled for something like that. So you can always, you know, and this is a service that you could offer to your buyers, is say, listen, I'm going to call the town on Monday. I'm just going to call the building department and see if there's been any, when the last time, you know, what permits have been pulled on the property in the past. You might get lucky. And they may say, oh yeah, there was a roof permit pulled 5 years ago. So you can check in with the town to you know, for that sort of due diligence as well. Typically an inspector can look at the roof and tell you roundabout how much life it has left in it.
All right, that's great, thank you.
Great. Sharon, did you have another question, or did you just not put your hand down?
I didn't put my hand down, I guess.
Okay, it's okay. Okay, great. So let's see. So there is also in your toolkit a home walkthrough survey. So definitely use that as a tool. And so you can bring that with you on the listing appointment, and then you can walk through and just like check off the things, right? Ask questions. And then once you're done with the walkthrough, come back to the table in the kitchen and sit down and then have your conversation. Go through your listing presentation, go through your comparables, right? And have that conversation with them about pricing their homes to what buyers are agreeable to pay for like-kind homes like theirs. Have printouts of your comparable sales. So that way, when they're kind of leaning towards that they want to overprice the home, you can say, listen, I totally understand. Let's look through these together. Which of these comparable sales indicate that we might be able to get X for your house? After your conversation, have I answered all of your questions? Is there anything else that concerns you today about moving forward with me as your listing agent? I would love the opportunity to work with you. Well, I'm concerned about this. Great, let's talk about that. What else? What else? What else? Nope, I think you've answered all of my objections. Great, are you ready to sign the listing paperwork? Let's get started. All right, make sure you go for the close, right? A lot of times we don't go for the close, we get really nervous and we're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna call you in a few days. Okay, you know, it's great meeting you. I'm just gonna call you in a couple of days. And then you can ask me any questions you have and we'll go over the information, right? And mind you, the person coming in after you went for the close and got them to sign the listing agreement that day. Always ask for the business, always ask them, right? Well, we're not ready. Okay, so talk to me about that. What is holding you back from signing the listing agreement today? And talk about it. So do you guys want to like maybe talk about some conversations that we can have? Does everybody have access to the script book? Let me find mine. Matt, do you maybe, can you pop that in the link for us?
Anyway, give me 1 second. I'm trying to find it myself.
Okay.
Close the window, of course.
I know, of course, of course. I think it might be, I think they might be in the toolkit, I believe is where they are. Yes, they're in the toolkit. So we're gonna do, okay, we're gonna do seller objection. Let's see. The one thing that we will know as far as before we do talk about some of these, I'm not saying the S word, is making sure that we are in compliance with the do not call list. Be very careful when you are soliciting for listings. I believe you have to subscribe to the do not call list. If you are using a dialer, so if you're using something like Mojo Dialer, Vulcan 7, to call around neighborhoods, thank you, Matt, for popping that in there. If you are using one of those tools, there is an option for it to automatically disregard anybody on the do not call list. Always make sure you click that button. Yes, please disregard them. Okay, if you are talking to somebody and they say, can you please take me off your list? Make sure you do, or make sure you don't call them again. Yes, Sharon? Oh, you're on mute.
Figure out how to get that hand out of there. It's distracting.
Oh, let me see. I might be able to do it for you.
I can lower it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Matt. I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So over if you go into the toolkit there, the first thing that should pop up is scripts for working with sellers. I'm on page 5. I can actually bring it up on my screen. I'm gonna try not to squint here. Okay. Everybody see my screen there? So I think we're just gonna go down to page 5. Here we are. There's our do not call. Okay, so scripts for working with sellers. So here's just some best practices. We talked about these earlier. Ask lots of questions, lots and lots and lots of questions. Listen more than you talk. When I was taking the pre-licensing class way back in 2007, I remember my instructor, he said to us like the first day, just always remember in real estate, because realtors do like to, I don't know, we tend to like to talk. I was called motor mouth as a child. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we want to listen twice as much as we talk. Allow equal time for both parties if the sellers are a couple. So make sure you are engaging. If it is a couple, or sometimes it might be a family. Sometimes there might be 5 people there because 5 siblings own the house. It happens. Make sure that you are taking the time to engage everybody. One also very important thing is when you are going to the listing presentation, as much as possible, make sure that the actual decision makers are in the room, right? If the husband is in no way going to sign papers without his wife being there, even if he may be the only person on the deed for some reason, he may have the sole signing power, but if he is not going to make a decision without his wife present or his partner present, very smart, by the way, make sure that you are meeting them at a time when they are both present. Affirm responses with great, that's wonderful. Yes, I agree, right? Especially if they're telling you about a concern. I really think I can get X for my house. Yes, I totally understand that. And I don't want you to leave any money on the table. My job is to get you as much money for your home in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress. That is what I'm here to do. I totally understand that. Yet it is important for us to price your home at a price that buyers are agreeable to pay for it. Don't assume they already know something. Don't assume they understand what you've told them or that they're done expressing their opinions or feelings. Always ask for clarification. Right? You can use phrases like, tell me more about that. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. Tell me about that. So some of these, like you guys can go through, we only have about 20 minutes left. So this is great, right? So delivering a 10+ experience. So some of these are great. Definitely this script book that you have is absolutely wonderful. This is a great tool to keep in your toolkit and practice these every day. The most successful agents do script practice every single day. They do it for 15 minutes a day. It's not, you have to spend a lot of time on it, but they block the time in their calendar. When I taught last week, we talked about a day in the life of a realtor. And we talked about blocking your calendar. You should have, script review, script practice on your calendar every single day, right before lead gen time. So that way you're just the more you see them and the more that you review them, they'll start to flow and you won't have to think about it. But there's actually an agent, some of you may know her, Jessica Starr. She is up in I think she's up in the Hartford office. She's in Connecticut. She is a rock star. And she runs a team up there. She's absolutely amazing. She has a extremely large and successful real estate business. She script practices every single day at her level and with all of her experience because it keeps her on top of her game. She was actually in the script off that we did at Mohegan Sun last week or the week before, which was really fun. But just, and you make a game out of it, right? Your script practice can just be objection handlers. Grab an accountability partner and say for 15 minutes, just throw every objection at me while you're not going to list. So that way your brain just starts to, and it doesn't matter if you're with that person and you mess up or you don't know what to say or like it's practice. But as you get more and more and more, and the more crazier objections you have, and as you can handle those, it's just honing your craft. So that way, when a seller does say something to you, you're able to answer them. So I love this wine maid. Let me tell you a little bit about the team or the company I work with. I'm with Keller Williams Coastal in Rhode Island. Right? For us here, Keller Williams Coastal, we're the largest real estate company in the state of Rhode Island. Our mobile search app is amazing. Our consumers are using our mobile search app to search for homes every single day. And when they click on your home and they inquire about it, that inquiry is going to come straight to me so I can make sure I can get them in the home in a timely manner and we can get more eyes on your home in less time. And always follow up with any questions on that. How does that sound to you? So this one here, help sellers see their listing through the eyes of a buyer. Right? Especially when you're comparing homes and you're comparing properties. It may not just be that they're both 3 bedrooms, 2 baths homes, right? 3 beds, 2 baths, or 2.5 baths, a 2-car garage. It might they may be similar like that, but then you want to dive into, well, what's the condition of the home? Right? Their home had, the comparable home has a completely remodeled kitchen and bathrooms, right? Your home, while it's the same size and has the same configuration, likely somebody's going to come in and do a complete renovation on the kitchen and the bathrooms. And you want to be careful of your language to not be, to not be insulting. I always use the words typically, right? Because they may be very attached to their yellow countertops, right? So you don't want to offend them, right? You may say, by the trends going on today, a buyer will likely come in and do a renovation on your home. And so that means they're going to probably put $80,000 into your home, which is why that home sold up here. And, your listing price may be a little bit lower to account for those changes that somebody is going to make. So signing the listing agreement, we're in agreement about the price and it sounds like all of the questions have been addressed, right? So you talk about price and they say, yes, I understand. Yes, I agree that a price of $450 is right for my home. Great. Sounds like we're in agreement about the price and that I've answered all of your questions. Based on everything we've discussed, I feel like we have the makings of a win-win relationship. Would you agree with that? Right? Yes, I do. Great. No, not yet. Great. Tell me what can I answer? What haven't I addressed yet? Let's talk about it. Are we ready to move ahead on this? Is there anything else? Is there anything we need to do before we get started? Would you like me to handle the sale of your home? So these are all ways that these are all closing lines for you. Are you ready to decide to choose me to represent you in the sale of your home? And again, if that's like, if these languages are like, I would never say that, that doesn't sound like me, you could tweak it to what sounds like you. Matt, it sounds like we're in agreement on the price of your home and that I've answered all of your questions. I would love the opportunity to be your listing agent. Are you ready to move forward with me today? Right, you can say something, whatever sounds more like you. And if they say no, great, tell me more about that, Matt. What is preventing you from moving forward? Do you have additional questions that I can answer for you? You know, and sometimes, you know, people may say, listen, I just really need to sleep on it. Like, I just need time to, you know, digest it and sleep on it. I mean, you always want to ask for the closing always, but yet somebody may just say, listen, I'm just not ready to make a decision today, right? I really need to sleep on it, or, you know, that great. Listen, I completely understand. And I want you to be 100% comfortable moving forward with me. Why don't you sleep on it? And how about if we agree to speak tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'll give you a ring. And we can talk about if you're ready to move forward or if there is something that is holding you back. So we already talked about discussing pricing with the sellers. And here's the closing the deal script, which we were just talking about the closing up there. All along the same lines. So let's talk a little bit about seller objections before we wrap up. So objection 1, and so for many of you, you might be a newer agent, right? And sometimes I think as newer agents, we're more afraid of this objection than maybe a seller really would even say, right? After you've presented everything and you've shown up and you look professional and you've held yourself in a high professional regard, they may not even, this may not be even on their mind. Sometimes it's on our minds more as an agent, right? Than it is actually on theirs. However, we need an agent with more experience. I appreciate that, Mr. Seller, yet Keller Williams Coastal is different. I'm a partner with the agents in my office, and I have a lot of, you can say, experienced, motivated agents with many years of experience that are going to assist me and work for you alongside me. Is there anything, and this is great, is there anything another agent said they would do that for some reason I forgot to mention? Did I cover everything you expected to hear? It sounds like you believe I can get your home sold, so let's move forward. Right? If they say, listen, everything sounds great, Rhonda, but yet I just feel you don't have enough experience. Right? Handle that objection. Tell them that you have the whole team of Keller Williams behind you, because that is how we roll here at Keller Williams, right? Our culture is unmatched and we work together. So seller objection number 2, we need to think it over. I hear you saying you want to be confident. If you were, excuse me, 100% confident in me, you wouldn't bring this up. If you knew I was going to do everything possible, you'd sign. The truth is you can never know that. Let's sign the agreement and know that you can cancel with me at any time if you are not satisfied. That's a little wordy, but the gist of that is, so we have a message. Great, Trisha. Thank you so much for being here today. I think that's a little bit wordy, but yet I think the gist to take from that is offer a guarantee. Listen, right? I understand. Yes, I know this is a big decision and you want to make the right decision and choose the right agent. I'm here to work for you and to get your home sold. Let's move forward. And if you are not satisfied with my service, you can cancel anytime. We already talked about agent, and this is the one that we brought up before. If they can't negotiate about their own money, how likely will they fight for your money when buyers make a low offer? That sentence is golden. They said it even better than I said it earlier. I can appreciate that there's someone who will work for less, but your agent negotiates for you. If they can't negotiate with you about their own money, how likely will they be to fight for your money when a buyer makes a low offer? That's gold, right? Why won't you reduce your commission? Let's say your boss came to you and said, I want you to do the same job for less pay and you'll have to work harder. Would you be motivated? You want the most money possible, right? Agents who discount their commission will offer the buyer's agent less money too. We want to give your biggest incentive possible to the buyer agent so they bring buyers to us. We talked about that earlier as well. So practice these and practice them. Like I said, you know, that you may not say it just like this. You may not say that exact sentence. So just practice that, right? Have your accountability partner and just say, listen, these are the objections I want you to give me. I want you to tell me that you need an agent with more experience. I want you to tell me that you got to think it over. I want you to tell me another agent will charge for less, and get what you say, get your language down. So when somebody says that to you, it just rolls right off of your tongue. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're practicing on your clients and you've never practiced it with somebody else, it's going to come out. You're going to sound a little unsure. You might trip over your words a little. And sometimes you can say the same thing and just say it in two different tones. One, because you're a little unsure and that question made you a little nervous. And then, or you say it with complete confidence because you practiced it over and over and over again. You might say the exact same thing, but if you're saying it with confidence, it's going to really make a difference. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point, right? I didn't even think of that before. So practice these. So then there's pricing objections. So you guys can read, this book is available to all of you. So definitely read them over, practice them, say them out loud, say them in front of your mirror if you can't find an accountability partner, right? When you wake up in the morning, go in front of your mirror and just practice with yourself. Any questions before we wrap up? Any ahas? What did you guys think of the content today? Good stuff? Yeah, it's a good course, right?
It's very helpful and thorough.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
You did a very good job, both of you. Yeah, very good job.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, this is so much fun. I try to teach a couple of Ignite sessions every time it comes around. We do this every other month. You all should have access to the YouTube. If you go on the New England Keller Williams YouTube channel, all of these sessions live there. This one will be up in a couple of days. So go back and watch them again. Watch it from the last session. There'll be, I try to change the ones that I teach every month. So either maybe another instructor who's doing this same exact one. Oh, thanks so much, Carmen. I'm so glad you were here today. There might be somebody else that teaches this, that taught it in the previous session or the next session they'll have different insight, different stories. This is a great refresher to take over and over and over again. Even if once you complete the course in full, if the next time you go, you know what, I'm going to go watch the seller one again, or I'm going to go watch this one again. And they're there for your benefit. So I'm so glad that you guys were here today. Any last questions? Anything that we didn't answer today? Okay, make sure you guys are doing your daily success plan, adding context to your database every day. Make sure you're blocking your time, lead generating, getting those activities done. Remember, stay in action consistently, and that's where your results are going to come from. If you need anything, I'm going to pop my contact information in the chat, and Matt can do the same. If you guys need anything at all, we are here to help, whether you're in our market centers or not. Great, absolutely. We are here to help. Just reach out to us and let us know how we can help build your business. All right, guys. Well, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, see you guys soon. Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for helping me today. Thanks so much, Maureen. Awesome, Matt. Appreciate you.
I'm going to stop our recording.